lands as the grains of sand in 42 Ganges rivers, lies a land called Unsurpassed. All its splendors are on par with those of the western land of bliss without any difference. I first emerged in that land, and for the deliverance of sentient beings I came to the Saha world. My appearance in that realm was not unique. All Tathagatas did likewise. This serves as evidence. Question. The Dharma Sound Sutra states that Amitabha Buddha had parents. This clearly indicates that he is not a reward body Buddha, and his land is not a realm of rewards. Answer. You have merely heard the words of the sutra without delving into its underlying essence, leading to your doubt. A hair's breadth of error can lead you astray by 1,000 miles. Amitabha Buddha also possesses the three bodies. The form that emerges in the land of bliss is his reward body. The mention of having parents refers to the parents of his transformation body manifested in a defiled realm. In a similar vein, Tathagata Shakyamuni, who attained his reward body in a pure realm, appeared through an emanation in this Saha world, where he manifested with parents and became a transformation body Buddha. Amitabha Buddha followed the same pattern. Also, according to the Drum Sound Sutra, at that time Amitabha Buddha convened with the assembly of Shravakas in the country known as Serene Prosperity. The city, the residence of the sacred king, measured 10,000 yojanas in both length and width. Amitabha Buddha's father was the Chakravartin named Moon King, and his mother was Supremely Wondrous Face. The Mara king was titled Non-Victorious. The Buddha's son bore the name Moonbright, while Devadatta was called Tranquil Mind. The Buddha's attendant was dubbed Stainless Title. The above passage relates solely to the attributes of a transformation body in a pure land. Would there be a Chakravartin, a city, women, and so forth? The text meaning is clear and requires no additional differentiation. Your insufficient analysis has resulted in misunderstanding and undue attachment. Question. If a reward body possesses the characteristic of ceasing and becoming invisible, can pure realms similarly undergo the processes of formation and destruction? Answer. Such difficult questions have been raised from ancient times to the present, and explaining them has always been a formidable challenge. However, I will cite scriptures as evidence which should help illuminate the connotations. Just as the bodies of Buddhas eternally exist, sentient beings still view them as enjoying parinirvana. So it is with pure realms. Their substance is not subject to formation or destruction, but sentient beings perceive them as undergoing formation and destruction, as stated in the Avatamsaka Sutra. Like beholding the mentor, myriad forms of splendor, as beings' mental states differ, so do their views of Buddha realms. Therefore, the treatise on the Pure Land by Daochuo says, not fixed as a singular substance, purity and impurity manifest in varying degrees, not fixed as distinct in substance, exploring origins uncovers concealed unity, not fixed as devoid of substance, through dependent origination, myriad phenomena come to be. So we know that it is pointless to distinguish between clarity and turbidity with respect to pure realms of Dharma nature, but with the reward and transformation realms, which manifest from the Buddha's great compassion. The distinction between purity and defilement cannot be ignored. Moreover, as a general clarification, there are three kinds of differences among Buddha lands, based on disparities in sentient beings' capabilities and sensibilities. The first are those deriving directly from the truth realm, known as realms of rewards. It's like the sunlight shining across the four continents. The Dharma body resembles the sun, with the reward and transformation bodies akin to the sunlight. The second type emerging suddenly out of nothing is referred to as a transformation realm, as mentioned in the four-division Vinaya. Tathagata Dipankara transformed two adjacent cities, Deva and Vati. Their inhabitants engaged in intermarriage and interaction. Subsequently, the Tathagata manifested a sudden fire, burning both cities to ash. Witnessing this display of impermanence, the sentient beings developed a deep revulsion and turned towards the Buddhist path. Therefore, the Vimalakirti Sutra states, at times he manifests a kalpa fire, consuming both heaven and earth. To sentient beings clinging to permanence, he spotlights the truth of impermanence. At other times, aiding the impoverished, he reveals a treasure house that's never finished. Guiding widely as conditions align, he inspires awakening of the Bodhi mind. The third type involves concealing the defiled realm and revealing the pure abode. As described in the Vimalakirti Sutra, when the Buddha pressed the ground with his toe, the 3,000-fold worlds turned splendid and pure without exception. The land of infinite life is a realm of rewards. deriving directly from the truth room. How do we know? It is stated in the Avalokiteshvara Prediction Sutra. In the future, Avalokiteshvara will attain Buddha and succeed Amitabha Buddha. Hence we know that the Pure Land is a realm of rewards. 8. Accessibility to both ordinary and sacred beings. This section clarifies that Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land embraces those with capacities from the highest to the lowest. It is accessible to both ordinary and sacred beings. This land of infinite life is the pure realm of Amitabha's karmic rewards. By virtue of his vows, it accommodates the full range of capabilities, allowing even those with virtues characteristic of ordinary beings to achieve rebirth there. And because it encompasses elevated faculties, Vasubandhu and Nagarjuna, along with other bodhisattvas of advanced stages, were also reborn there. Thus, the longer sutra states, Bodhisattva Maitreya asked the Buddha, how many non-retrogressive bodhisattvas in this world achieve rebirth in that Buddha land? The Buddha replied, in this world, 6.7 billion non-retrogressive bodhisattvas will be reborn in that Buddha land. Should extensive scriptural references be made, it is similar in the worlds of all other directions. Question. Given that Amitabha's Pure Land is described as embracing capacities from the highest to the lowest, accessible to both ordinary and sacred beings, this remains unclear. Is rebirth in that realm exclusive to those who undertake practices without forms, or is it also attainable by ordinary beings who still cling to phenomenal characteristics? Answer. Ordinary beings superficial in wisdom often seek rebirth through reliance on phenomenal characteristics. They will indeed attain rebirth. However, because the virtue associated with phenomenal characteristics is limited, they are reborn only in the realm with characteristics, where they see only Buddhas of the reward and transformation bodies. Therefore, it is stated in the chapter on Bodhisattva's practices in past lives from the Sutra on Buddha Contemplation Samadhi. Manjushri addressed the Buddha. I recall countless kalpas ago, during my time as an ordinary being, there was a Buddha in the world known as Tathagata, Supreme King of Precious Sublime Virtue. His manifestation bore no difference from the present Buddha, with a 16-foot stature and a body of purple golden hue. He too expounded the teachings of the three vehicles, just as Shakyamuni does. At that time in that land there was a noble elder named All-Giving. He had a son called Guardian of Precepts. While carrying the child, his mother, out of respect and faith, had already committed him to the three refuges. Following his birth at the age of 8, his parents welcomed the Buddha into their home for offerings. Upon seeing the Buddha, the boy paid homage, his heart burning with profound reverence, his gaze unwavering. This mere encounter with the Buddha cleansed him of the negative karma that caused birth and death for trillions of Nayuta Kalpas. Henceforth, he was repeatedly reborn in pure realms, encountering as many Buddhas as the grains of sand in 100 billion Nayuta Ganges rivers. Those well-known ones, too, employed their magnificent characteristics to deliver sentient beings. The boy of the earlier time personally served each of them without fail. He made prostrations and offerings and contemplated the Buddhas with palms pressed together. Due to the power of such karma, he further encountered 1,000,000 Asamkhya Buddhas. These Buddhas likewise converted and delivered sentient beings through their physical forms and characteristics. Since then, he mastered 10 billion gates of Buddha invocation samadhi and Asamkhya Dharani gates. Upon achieving these, all the Buddhas appeared before him to expound the Dharma without forms. In mere moments, he attained Shrangama Samadhi. At that earlier time, the boy had merely undertaken the three refuges, bowed to the Buddha, and attentively observed the Buddha's form with an untiring heart. This very causal condition allowed him to meet innumerable Buddhas. How much greater, then, is the benefit when one fully focuses his mind to reflect on the Buddha's physical form? Was that boy from the past someone else? No, he was indeed myself, Manjushri, in a former life. At that time, the world-honored one commended Manjushri. Excellent, excellent. By virtue of a single salutation to a Buddha, you encountered innumerable Buddhas. How much more will this be true for my future disciples who consistently practice Buddha contemplation and Buddha invocation? The Buddha instructed Ananda, remember these words of Manjushri and convey them to the assembly and all beings of future ages. If a person can pay homage to a Buddha, invoke the Buddha, or contemplate the Buddha, you should know that this person is equal to Manjushri, and the like without any difference. Upon that person's departure from this life, Manjushri and other bodhisattvas will serve as his personal teachers. This text confirms That the Pure Land encompasses a realm with phenomenal characteristics, so rebirth there is beyond doubt. Those who understand that the fundamental essence is devoid of phenomenal characteristics and independent of thoughts and seek rebirth there are likely to be reborn as upper-tier aspirants. Therefore, as Bodhisattva Vasubandhu says in his treatise on rebirth, if one can contemplate the 29 categories of splendor and purity, then they are encompassed in the one Dharma verse. The one Dharma verse is the purity verse. The purity verse represents wisdom and the unconditioned Dharma body. Why is it necessary that the expansive and the brief versions are mutually encompassing? The reason is that each of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas has two kinds of Dharma bodies, the Dharma body of Dharma nature and the Dharma body of expediency. The former produces the latter, and the latter represents the former. The two Dharma bodies are different yet inseparable, uniform but not identical. For this reason, the expansive and the brief accounts are mutually encompassing. Without understanding such mutual incorporation, Bodhisattvas cannot benefit themselves and others. Unconditioned Dharma body is the body of Dharma nature. As Dharma nature is in the state of tranquil extinction, the Dharma body is free from phenomenal characteristics. Being free from phenomenal characteristics, there is no phenomenal characteristic that the Dharma body cannot manifest, though the resplendent characteristics and refinements of the environment and beings of the Pure Land are manifestations of the Dharma body. Whereas the Dharma body transcends perception, there is nothing it does not know. Therefore, all-inclusive wisdom is true wisdom. Though one contemplates through the general and specific verses in the context of dependent origination, there is nothing that is not absolute reality. Knowing absolute reality, the Bodhisattvas realize that sentient beings in the three domains are false, delusive, phenomenal manifestations. With such realization, they generate true compassion. Since they know true compassion, they initiate true refuge taking. Contemporary practitioners, both monastics and laypersons, who understand that rebirth in the Pure Land is birthless, and thereby align with the two truths, are most likely to attain rebirth as upper-tier aspirants. Non-inclusion or non-inclusion in the three domains. This section clarifies whether Amitabha's Pure Land is included in the three domains. Question: in which of the three domains is the land of peace and joy included? Answer: the Pure Land is exquisitely sublime. Its essential substance transcends the worldly realm. These three domains resemble a dark house for unenlightened ordinary beings. The pleasures of living there are just slightly different from their sufferings. Their lifespans vary in length, but overall nothing here is not in the long river of imperfections. Disasters and blessings coexist, depend on one another, and alternate in succession without end. Beings are marred in various states of existence and undergo mixed sensations and feelings. They cling incessantly to the four inverted beliefs. From causes through consequences, delusion, and futility persist unceasingly, profoundly repugnant these all are. Therefore, the Pure Land is not included in the three domains. Further, according to the treatise on the perfection of wisdom, the rewards of Pure Lands are without desire, therefore they are not of the desire realm. With solid foundations, they are not of the form realm. With forms of existence, they are not of the formless realm. Although described as having solid foundations, they are exquisitely transcendent and remarkably wondrous. Hence, Vasubandhu states in his treatise on rebirth, I reflect on the features of that land. It transcends the path of the three domains. Ultimately, it is like the void, immense and boundless. Therefore, as extolled in praise of the longer sutra. In the land of wonder vast and unbounded, formed naturally from seven jewels compounded, adorned by power of the Buddha's fundamental vows, to this pure great embrace I offer my reverent bows. His realm glows with marvels unmatched, pleasant and peaceful, from four seasons detached. To benefit self and others, perfect power he's hit. To him adorning with skillful means, my life I commit. The second great teaching. Chapter 2 comprises three sections. 1. Awakening of the Bodhi mind. 2. Refutation of divergent views and erroneous attachments. 3. Extensive exchange of questions and answers to dissolve doubts. 1. Awakening of the Bodhi mind. This initial section concerns the awakening of the Bodhi mind and includes four subsections. I. Functions of the Bodhi mind. 2. Terminology and essence of Bodhi. 3. Different factors in the awakening of the Bodhi mind. 4. Questions and answers. Functions of the Bodhi mind. The longer sutra states, Those who wish to be reborn in the Pure Land must awaken the Bodhi mind as the fundamental source. Why is that? Bodhi is the name of the Supreme Buddha path. The mind that aspires to Buddhahood is vast, encompassing the entire Dharma realm. This mind extends to the ultimate and is equal to the boundless void. It sustains, reaching infinitely into the future. It embraces, universally unobstructed by the limitations of the two vehicles. Upon awakening this mind, one transcends all the merit and virtues, from beginningless births, deaths, existences, and declines. When dedicated to Bodhi, they endure until the attainment of Buddhahood, without disappearing or being lost. This can be likened to preserving flowers in the 5 pure abodes, where they remain unwithered by wind and sun, or to storing water in a divine river, which never runs dry even amid worldly drought. Terminology and essence of Bodhi. There are 3 kinds of Bodhi. 1. Dharma Body Bodhi. 2. Reward Body Buddha. 2. Reward Body Bodhi. 3. Transformation Body Bodhi. In Dharma Body Bodhi, the term Dharma Body signifies true suchness, ultimate reality, and the first principle emptiness. It is pure in its own nature and free from defilements and contaminations in its substance. Its essence emerges from natural reality and requires no cultivation to achieve here. Bodhi is the fundamental essence of the Buddha path. As for Reward Body Bodhi, Reward Body denotes the fruition of a reward Buddha, evoked by the thorough cultivation of myriad virtuous deeds, the consequence of causal practices. In this context, Bodhi signifies their unobstructed perfect accomplishment. Concerning Transformation Body Bodhi, Transformation Body describes the functions originating from the Reward Body Buddha, adept at accommodating the myriad proclivities of beings. As such, Bodhi depicts the benefiting of sentient beings fully and flawlessly. Different factors in the awakening of the Bodhi mind. 3 factors underlie the cultivation of causal practices and development of the Bodhi mind. 1. Recognizing the principle of existence versus non-existence, that self-nature is pure from the origin. 2. Cultivating myriad virtuous deeds as guided by causal conditions. They include mastering the 84,000 paths of paramita. 3. Embracing great compassion as the foundational focus, with a steadfast commitment to the deliverance of beings. These 3 causal factors resonate with great Bodhi, so they are known as triggers of the Bodhi mind. Apart from the above, as stated in the Treatise on Rebirth in the Pure Land, the awakening of Bodhi mind now referred to is the resolve to become a Buddha. Such a mind wishes to deliver sentient beings. The mind wishing to deliver sentient beings is the mind aspiring to induce beings to be reborn in realms where there are Buddhas. Therefore, aspirants to rebirth in the Pure Land must first awaken the Bodhi mind. Questions and answers. Question. If thoroughly cultivating myriad virtuous deeds can lead to Bodhi and the attainment of Buddhahood, why then does it say in the Sutra on the inaction of all dharmas? If a person seeks Bodhi, then Bodhi cannot be. The seeker strays from Bodhi far, as distant as earth from the star. Answer. The concrete essence of Bodhi should be pursued from the nominal aspect, free from phenomenal characteristics. Seeking Bodhi as a phenomenon does not align with the nominal reality, hence it is said that the seeker strays far. Therefore, the Vimalakirti Sutra states, Bodhi cannot be attained through the mind or through the body. The practitioners referred to here, though they pursue Bodhi through their practices, are acutely aware that its nominal essence is beyond seeking. Nevertheless, they do not abandon the use of provisional designations. Hence, they diligently cultivate myriad virtuous deeds in an effort to realize Bodhi. For this reason, the Treatise on the Perfection of Wisdom declares, should one see prajna, such is being bound. Should one not see prajna, such is still being bound. Should one see prajna, such is being liberated. Such is being liberated. Should one not see prajna, such is also being liberated. As Bodhisattva Nagarjuna explains, in this context, being confined to the 4 terms of differentiation signifies bondage, while transcending the 4 terms represents liberation. In the pursuit of Bodhi, if one can practice in such a manner, it is to practice without the discriminative awareness of practice. This practice without practice is in line with the great principle of the 2 truths. Additionally, according to Vasubandhu's Treatise on Rebirth in the Pure Land, for anyone aspiring to attain the Supreme Bodhi, there are 2 essential principles. 1. One must first avoid 3 kinds of nonconformity with the Bodhi gate. 2. One must know 3 kinds of conformity with the Bodhi gate. What are the three? First, by relying on the gate of wisdom, one refrains from seeking pleasures for himself. He distances his mind from the notion of ego and attachment to self. Second, by relying on the gate of compassion, one eradicates the sufferings of all sentient beings and distances his mind from unwillingness to conform them. Third, by relying on the gate of expediency, one sympathizes with all sentient beings and distances his mind from expectations of veneration and offerings for himself. This is called averting three kinds of nonconformity with the Bodhi gate. As for conformity with the Bodhi gate, by averting the three kinds of nonconformity with the Bodhi gate, a bodhisattva attains the three kinds of conformity with the Bodhi gate. What are the three? The first is the undefiled pure mind, because he refrains from seeking his own pleasures. Bodhi is a pure realm free of defilements. Seeking one's own pleasure is contrary to the Bodhi gate. Therefore, an undefiled pure mind conforms with the Bodhi gate. The second is the pacifying pure mind, because one eradicates the sufferings of all sentient beings. Bodhi is a pure realm that gives peace and comfort to all sentient beings. If one is not resolved to deliver all beings from the suffering of birth and death, he goes against Bodhi. Therefore, eradicating the sufferings of all sentient beings conforms with the Bodhi gate. The third is the joy-giving pure mind, because one enables all sentient beings to attain great Bodhi and embraces them to be reborn in the Pure Land. Bodhi is the realm of ultimate permanence and joy. If one does not enable all sentient beings to attain ultimate permanence and joy, he deviates from the Bodhi gate. What do beings rely on to attain ultimate permanence and joy? They rely on the Great Principal Gate. The Great Principal Gate is precisely the Buddha land of peace and joy. Hence, it is recommended to aspire single-mindedly to rebirth in the Pure Land, with the goal of swiftly achieving the Supreme Bodhi. 2. Refutation of divergent views and mistaken attachments. This section, which refutes divergent views and erroneous attachments, comprises 9 subsections. Refutation of the misconceived notion that Mahayana is without form. 2. Reconciliation of Bodhisattva's great compassion arises from desire and false views. 3. Refutation of the misconception that there is no Dharma outside the mind. 4. Refutation of the preference for rebirth in defiled realms over pure realms. 4. Refutation of the preference for rebirth in defiled realms over pure realms. 5. Refutation of the view that those born in the Pure Land tend to be attached to pleasures. 6. Refutation of the criticism that seeking rebirth in the Pure Land falls under the lesser vehicle. 7. Refutation of preferring rebirth into Shita Heaven over the Pure Land. 8. Reconciliation of the proposition that seeking rebirth in Pure Lands of the 10 directions is not comparable to aspiring to the Western Land of Bliss. 9. Discussion on intention for a different time. To begin with, from the refutation of the misconceived notion that Mahayana is without form, the argument unfolds in 2 episodes. Initially, it elucidates the general origin of the 9 errors to enable practitioners in the future to discern right from wrong, discard erroneous views, and align with authentic teachings. Subsequently, it thoroughly addresses the 9 attachments, demonstrating the correct perceptions to refute them. First of all is the general origin of the 9 errors. In the profound Mahayana scriptures, terms and meanings are as innumerable as grains of dust and sand. That is why in the Nirvana Sutra states, a single term encompasses boundless meanings. A single meaning corresponds to boundless terms. To grasp the essence of a single scripture, one must meticulously examine a wide array of texts. This approach differs from that of the lesser vehicle in secular writings, where interpretations are confined to the literal text. Why is that necessary? The Pure Land teachings are abstruse and vast, with scriptures varying from cryptic to explicit. This engenders various conjectures from unenlightened minds, leading to flawed interpretations and blind obstinacy. Such misconceptions sow confusion and ignorance, obstructing rebirth in the Pure Land. Below are a few examples, each accompanied by its refutation, refuting the mistaken idea that Mahayana is without form. Some argue that Mahayana advocates non-characteristics and negates differentiation between this and that realm. Desiring birth in the Pure Land could be seen as an attachment to characteristics or form, thereby increasing entanglements and afflictions. What then is the justification for seeking rebirth there? Answer. Such reasoning is incorrect. Why? Because when Buddhists expound the Dharma, two conditions must be met. Firstly, it is grounded in the true essence of Dharma nature. Secondly, it aligns with the two truths, ultimate and worldly truths. That's the assertion that Mahayana is devoid of differentiating notions, is based solely on Dharma nature. But the misguided negation of pursuing rebirth through causal conditions contradicts the two truths. Those who hold this view fall into the misperception of nihilistic emptiness. Therefore, the Supreme Reliance Sutra states, the Buddha told Ananda, if sentient beings generate the view of self as vast as Mount Sumeru, I do not fear it. Why? Because although they haven't yet achieved liberation, they do not destroy their belief in cause and effect, and thus will not forfeit their future rewards of attainment. However, if one embraces nihilistic emptiness, even as tiny as a mustard seed, I do not condone it. Why? Because such a notion disrupts belief in cause and effect, often leading to descent into the wretched realms. In his future existences, he will invariably stray from my teachings. Advice to practitioners. The ultimate reality is birthless. The principle of the two truths invalidates the negation of pursuing rebirth through causal conditions. All seekers of rebirth can attain it. Therefore, the Vimalakirti Sutra states, though they contemplate both the Buddha lands and sentient beings as void, bodhisattvas persistently cultivate their pure realms, teaching and transforming all living beings. Furthermore, that sutra says, although they practice without doing, they manifest reincarnated bodies, such as the practice of bodhisattvas. Although they practice without arising, they perform all virtuous deeds, such as the practice of bodhisattvas. This is the definitive proof. Question. In today's world, there are those who practice the Mahayana teaching of non-characteristics, disregarding any distinction between this and that, yet they completely neglect the observance of precepts. How should this be understood? Answer. Such an approach is exceedingly harmful. Why? As the Mahavaipulya Sutra states, the Buddha laid down precepts for upasakas, prohibiting them from visiting the homes of widows and virgins, and from engaging with liquor sellers, dye works, oil refineries, and leather workshops. Ananda asked the Buddha, for which types of people did the world honor and establish these precepts? The Buddha told Ananda, there are two kinds of practitioners, those who practice as lay people and those as monastics. For monastics, I do not restrict the above matters. It is for lay people that I set out these restrictions. Why? All sentient beings are my children, and the Buddha is their parent. Precepts are designed to guide and restrain them, facilitating their early liberation from the worldly realm and attainment of nirvana. Reconciling Bodhisattva's great compassion arises from desire and false views. Question. According to the sacred Mahayana teachings, if a Bodhisattva develops great compassion towards sentient beings, stemming from desire and false views, it ought to be relinquished. Now, by urging sentient beings to seek rebirth in the Pure Land together, does this not signify a contamination by desire and an attachment to phenomenal characteristics? How can this remove their entanglement of afflictions? Answer. Bodhisattva practices yield two functions. A. Realizing emptiness, wisdom, or prajna. B. Attaining great compassion. First, through the power derived from cultivating prajna, bodhisattvas, even while navigating the cycle of birth and death in the six realms, are not ensnared by afflictions and contamination. Second, with mindful concern for sentient beings out of great compassion, bodhisattvas do not remain in the realm of nirvana. While residing within the two truths, they can always adeptly transcend the clinging notions of both existence and non-existence, embracing or relinquishing each according to a middle path, without departing from the greater principle. Therefore, the Vimalakirti Sutra states, imagine a person planning to build a palace on empty land. He can proceed freely without obstacles, pretending such a task in the air would prove impossible. Similarly, bodhisattvas aiming to guide beings to enlightenment aspire to establish Buddha lands, yet the aspiration to create Buddha lands cannot be fulfilled in emptiness, refuting the misconception that there is no dharma outside the mind. It comprises two parts, refutation of delusional speculations and questions and answers for explanations. A. Refutation of delusional speculations. Question. Someone says that pure objects of contemplation correspond to practitioners' inner beings. Since pure lands are all encompassed and universally pervasive, a pure mind itself constitutes a pure land. Given that no dharma exists outside the mind, why then is there a need to journey westward? Answer. The pure land of dharma nature is, in nominal terms, non-material and all-encompassing, with its essence entirely unbounded. This represents the birthless truth, or domain accessible only to practitioners of superior capability. Hence, the wordless truth casket sutra states, Good man, there is yet another teaching realized by the Buddha. This teaching proclaims that all dharmas neither go nor come, and have no cause or condition, no arising or ceasing, no thought or non-thought, and no increase or decrease. The Buddha asked Rahula, Do you now accept and entertain this true Dharma principle I've expounded? At that moment, 900 million bodhisattvas from the 10 directions promptly responded, We are all capable of upholding this teaching and will disseminate it among sentient beings without cease. The world honored one declared, Therefore, you good men, and indeed shoulder the task of Bodhi, you will immediately achieve unceasing eloquence and attain virtuous and pure Buddha lands. At the end of this life, you will behold Amitabha Buddha and the sacred assembly present before you, and you shall be reborn in the Pure Land. However, there naturally exist people of medium and lesser capabilities who have yet to transcend the illusion of phenomenal characteristics. They must rely on their faith in the Buddha to seek rebirth in the Pure Land. Though they may reach that realm, they reside in the abode that retains phenomenal characteristics. The sutra further states, simulating conditioned phenomena back to the fundamental essence implies that there are no dharmas outside the mind. However, if one distinguishes the two truths to clarify the meaning, it does not hinder the understanding that the Pure Land also exists as a dharma outside the mind. B. Questions and answers for explanation. Question. You mentioned that only practitioners of superior capability can attain the birthless birth, while those of medium and lesser abilities cannot. Is this judgment made simply by correlating the proclivities of practitioners with their respective dharma accomplishments, or is it also supported by sacred teachings? Answer. The treatise on the perfection of wisdom states, Bodhisattvas with newly formed resolve are weak in capacity and understanding. Though they have awakened Bodhi mind, they mostly aspire to be reborn in Pure Lands. What is the reason for this? Imagine an infant who, without the loving care and nurture of his parents, may face various dangers such as falling into pits or wells, being burned or bitten by snakes, or dying from a lack of mother's milk. Only through the parents' tender caresses, washing, nursing, and rearing can the child grow and ultimately inherit the family legacy. Bodhisattvas are similar. Upon awakening the Bodhi mind, they mostly aspire to be reborn in Pure Lands. There they can draw near to Buddhas and grow their Dharma body. Only then can they uphold and penetrate and perpetuate the lineage of Bodhisattvas, aiding and delivering sentient beings in the 10 directions. It is for this benefit that most Bodhisattvas desire rebirth in Pure Lands. Moreover, the treatise declares, Consider a young bird. Its wings not yet fully developed. It cannot be forced to fly high. It must initially rely on moving from branch to branch within the forest. Only when its feathers have fully grown and become strong can it leave the forest and soar through the sky. Similarly, Bodhisattvas with newly formed resolve must first seek rebirth in the presence of a Buddha by dint of his vows. As their Dharma body matures, they are then able to respond and bring benefit to sentient beings as needed. In addition, the treatise proclaims, Ananda addressed the Buddha, Where should this paramita without characteristics be taught? The Buddha responded, This teaching should be imparted in the stage of non-transgression, avivart. Why? Because there are bodhisattvas with newly formed resolve who, upon hearing this paramita without characteristics, have all their pure virtuous roots completely extinguished. Furthermore, once reborn in the Pure Land, all endeavors will be complete. What purpose does it serve to debate the profundity or simplicity of these teachings? Refuting the preference for rebirth in defiled realms over Pure Lands. Question. Some say that they wish to be reborn in a defiled land to teach and guide sentient beings rather than seek rebirth in a Pure Land. What is to be made of this? Answer. Such people indeed exist. Who are they? Those who have reached the stage of non-transgression or beyond. For the purpose of converting impure and wicked beings, they can remain unstained while dwelling in the corrupt world, and their resolve does not waver when facing evil. This is similar to geese and ducks that enter the water but are not wetted. Only such persons are capable of living amid defilement to alleviate the suffering of others. In the case of truly ordinary people, whose own practices are not yet solid, they tend to waver when they encounter suffering. Their intention to aid others often leads instead to their mutual downfall. It's like forcing chickens into water. How can they avoid becoming drenched? Therefore, the treatise on the perfection of wisdom states. Therefore, the treatise on the perfection of wisdom says, If an ordinary person makes resolutions and aspires to rescue sentient beings in a defiled land, The Buddha's intention does not permit this. Why is that? Bodhisattva Nagarjuna explains in the treatise, consider an expanse of ice stretching 40 miles. If one pours a liter of hot water onto it, it might appear momentarily to diminish the ice a little. But by the dawn following the night, that very spot becomes even more elevated than the surrounding areas. It is similar for ordinary people who vow to save others in this realm. They face a multitude of agreeable and disagreeable circumstances which incite greed and aversion. Consequently, they generate afflictions within themselves, leading to their own descent into the wretched realms. Refuting the view that those born in the Pure Land tend to be attached to pleasures. Question. Some argue that the Pure Land contains only joy, which may cause many of its inhabitants to be attached to pleasure. That would hinder or even undermine their self-cultivation towards enlightenment. Why should one aspire to be reborn in such a place? Answer. Since it is termed Pure Land, it is devoid of all impurities. To speak of attachment to pleasure is to talk about the vexation of greed and desire. How then can this be called pure? Hence the longer sutra states, when human and celestial beings in the land come and go, move forward and remain still, they are free from emotional attachments. Additionally, it is declared in the 48 vows, if celestial and human beings from the 10 directions who are reborn in my land should generate thoughts of attachment to their bodies, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. The longer sutra further states, human and celestial beings in that land have no thought of particularity or prejudice. How then could there be any attachment to pleasure? Refuting the criticism that seeking rebirth in the Pure Land falls under the lesser vehicle. Question. Some assert that seeking rebirth in the Pure Land falls under the lesser vehicle. Why then should it be practiced? Answer. This is not so either. Why? Simply because the teachings of the lesser vehicle never expressly indicate rebirth in a pure realm. Reconciling the aspiration for rebirth in the Tushita heaven with advocacy to be reborn in the Pure Land. Question. Some state that they wish to be reborn in the Tushita heaven, not to seek the Western Pure Land. What is the nature of this matter? Answer. The principle is not the same. These are seemingly minor similarities, but significant differences in essence. 4 aspects can be discerned. What are they? A. Maitreya, the world honored one, turns the Dharma wheel of non-transgression for the celestial assembly in Tushita heaven. Those who develop faith upon hearing his teaching receive benefit. This represents a similarity in terms of faith with the Western Pure Land, yet those who indulge in pleasure and lack faith are numerous. Furthermore, although one is born in Tushita, the stage is subject to retrogression. That is why the Lotus Sutra states there is no safety in the 3 domains which resemble a burning house. B. Upon rebirth in Tushita heaven, one attains a lifespan of 4,000 years. At the conclusion of this lifespan, retrogression and descent are inevitable. C. In Tushita heaven, there are streams, birds, trees, and forests that resonate with harmonious, graceful melodies, but they serve solely as causal conditions to evoke the pleasure of celestial beings, resonating with the 5 desires. They do not support the sacred path. If sentient beings aspire to Amitabha's Pure Land upon rebirth there, they all reach the non-retrogression stage avavart, and there is no one subject to retrogression cohabiting with them. Furthermore, their stage is flawless, transcending the 3 domains, and they are definitively free from samsara. Their lifespan is equal to that of Amitabha, beyond numerical comprehension. The streams, birds, trees, and forests there all impart Dharma teachings, enabling beings to awaken understanding and realize the endurance for the non-arising of dharmas. D. Based on the longer sutra, comparisons of music are made, as stated in Tanluan's in praise of the longer sutra. From earthly monarchs to the 6th heaven sphere, music's wonder ascends through 8-fold tiers, each surpassing the previous by billions of times. Jewel trees, melodies excel in equal primes. Spontaneously arising the chorus tunes of merit, Dharma sounds harmonious, pleasing mind and spirit, elegant and sonorous, transcending the 10 directions. Thus I bow to this music of purity and perfection, showing that seeking rebirth in Pure Lands of the 10 directions does not compare to returning to the Western Pure Land. Question. Some say that they wish to be reborn in pure realms of the 10 directions rather than in the Western Pure Land. How should this be understood? Answer. The principles are different. There are 3 considerations. What are they? A. Buddha lands of the 10 directions are not impure, yet, when the object of contemplation is expansive, the mind becomes obscure, whereas a narrowly defined contemplative object promotes concentration. Therefore, the Sutra on Rebirth in the 10 directions, according to wishes, states, Bodhisattva Universal Expansive addressed the Buddha. Well, one. All Buddha lands in the 10 directions are splendid and pure. Why then did the scriptures overwhelmingly acclaim Amitabha's land in the West, advising us to be reborn there? The Buddha replied, the majority of sentient beings are mired in turmoil and confusion, while those with correct mindfulness are scarce. To aid in their focused devotion, I praise that land, distinguishing it from others. Those who practice in accordance with their aspiration will invariably gain benefit. B. Pure lands in the 10 directions are all immaculate, yet discerning their degrees of profundity is difficult. Amitabha's Pure Land serves as the initial gateway to these pure realms. How do we know? According to the Avatamsaka Sutra, one kalpa in the Saha world is equivalent to 1 day and night in the land of bliss. 1 kalpa in the land of bliss equals 1 day and night in the Kasaya Bannerland. Through such progressive comparison of the inferior and the superior, there are 10 asamkhya pairs of comparison. We therefore understand that the Pure Land serves as the initial gateway to pure realms. This is why all Buddhas overwhelmingly acclaim rebirth there. Other Buddha lands do not receive such emphatic exhortation. Therefore, faithful disciples predominantly aspire to be reborn in that land. C. Given that Amitabha's Pure Land is the initial gateway to pure realms, the Saha world is the final phase of defiled lands. How do we know? In the Siddharma Smriti Upasthana Sutra, the Sutra on mindfulness of the correct Dharma, it is said, northeast from here is the world named Sika. Its ground consists entirely of triangular sandstones. It rains only 3 times a year, each rainfall moistening the land no more than 5 inches deep. The inhabitants subsist entirely on fruits and wear tree bark for clothing. They cannot fulfill their desires for life or their wish for death. In another world, tigers, wolves, fowls, other beasts, and even snakes and scorpions have wings and can fly. Encounters lead to mutual devouring. No distinction is made between virtue and vice. Do these not signify the incipient stage of defiled realms? However, the Saha world's retributive environment is shared with the virtuous and the sacred, positioning it to be the concluding phase of defiled realms. Given that the land of peace and joy is the initial gateway to pure realms, it directly adjoins this world in their sequence. Rebirth there is remarkably straightforward. Why not pursue it? Examining an apparent discrepancy between the Mahayana Samgraha compendium of Mahayana and the Contemplation Sutra to clarify the concept of intention for a different time. In the Contemplation Sutra, the Buddha describes a person of the lower grade who has committed grave offenses. At the moment of death, this person encounters a Dharma friend, and after completing 10 recitations of Amitabha's name, attains rebirth in the Pure Land. By reference to the compendium, it has been aligned that this teaching implies the Buddha's intention for a different time. Moreover, from ancient times, those proficient in the compendium have mostly interpreted this passage as follows. The 10 recitations at the time of death merely serve as a cause for rebirth in the Pure Land, but rebirth is not attained immediately. How do we know? The compendium explains, earning 1,000 coins from one cannot be accomplished in a single day. It is thus evident that completing 10 recitations functions only as a cause. Immediate rebirth does not ensue. Therefore, this teaching implies the Buddha's intention for rebirth at a different time. This interpretation should be considered inappropriate. Why? Because whenever a bodhisattva composes a treatise to clarify a sutra, the aim is consistently to uphold the Buddha's intended meaning and to align with his sacred intent. It is impossible for a treatise to contradict any sutra. Now, regarding the interpretation of the intention for a different time, the Buddha's customary approach in expounding teachings is to present the cause first and then its effect, thus ensuring a lucid, well-defined line of reasoning. The Contemplation Sutra merely states that a lifelong transgressor attained attains rebirth in the Pure Land by completing 10 recitations at the time of death, without specifying whether there was a pertinent cause in the past. The World Honor One's purpose is to inspire future wrongdoers to abandon evil and turn towards good at life's end, seeking rebirth through recitation. Hence, the past cause is intentionally omitted. By focusing on the result rather than the cause, the World Honor One deliberately obscures the initial factors and accentuates the final outcome. This defines the intention for a different time. How do we know? The very completion of the 10 recitations itself implies that there must have been a causative factor in the past. For illustration, the Nirvana Sutra states, if one has made offerings to as many Buddhas as the grains of sand in half of the Ganges River, and has awakened the Bodhi mind, then upon hearing the Mahayana teachings in an unwholesome world, this person can refrain from slander, yet not accrue additional merit. If one has made offerings to as many Buddhas as the grains of sand in the entire Ganges and has awakened Bodhi mind, then upon hearing the Mahayana teachings in an unwholesome world, this person will not only abstain from slander, but also embrace the teachings with appreciation and cherishment. As verified by these sutras, it becomes evident that the completion of 10 recitations indeed stems from a past cause. Without such a cause from the past, it would have been impossible to encounter a Dharma friend, let alone complete the 10 recitations. Regarding the statement in the compendium, earning 1,000 coins from one cannot be accomplished in a single day. The intent of the Buddha is to encourage sentient beings to amass a wealth of virtuous causes, thereby facilitating their rebirth through recitation. From the perspective of the compendium's author, by this statement the past causes are obscured, and this reasoning can also be without fault. Interpreted this way, it conforms to the Buddhist Sutra and aligns with the purport of the compendium. Thus, the two mutually reinforce each other. The pathway for rebirth is clear, leaving no room for doubt. 3. Extensive exchange of questions and answers. This section presents extensive questions and answers to dissolve doubt. Below is a broad array of inquiries and responses regarding the treatise on the perfection of wisdom. Question. All sentient beings throughout countless great kalpas have created all kinds of flawed karma and are therefore bound to the 3 domains. How can they, without serving such karma that binds them to the 3 domains, achieve rebirth in the Pure Land and escape the 3 domains by merely reciting Amitabha Buddha for a brief period? How then should the term binding karma be defined? Answer. There are 2 ways of explanation. 1. Refutation on the ground of Dharma principles. 2. Clarification through parables. With respect to Dharma principles, all Tathagatas possess inconceivable wisdom, all embracing Mahayana wisdom and unsurpassed peerless supreme wisdom. The power of inconceivable wisdom enables them to transform few into many, many into few, near to far, far to near, heavy to light, far near, light to heavy, and heavy to light. They have such wisdom, immeasurable, boundless, and beyond comprehension. This is the second way of explanation, comprising 7 parts, each featuring a parable for illustration. 1. Imagine 100 people who have gathered firewood for a century, piling it to a height of 1,000 feet. A spark, barely the size of a bean, ignites it, and within half a day, it is completely consumed. Can anyone claim that firewood collected over 100 years cannot be exhausted in half a day? 2. Consider a person with a mobility impairment boarding a boat. By harnessing the power of the wind with sails, he can cover 1,000 miles in a single day. It should not be asserted that a cripple is unable to travel a great distance in one day. 3. Similarly, envision a lowly, impoverished individual who acquires an auspicious object and presents it to the king as a tribute. The king, delighted by this offering, lavishly rewards the presenter. Instantly, a poor person is enveloped in wealth and honor. How can it be argued that even government officials who dedicate decades to their service, enduring hardships and navigating the ups and downs, do not attain distinction upon retirement, so the aforementioned sudden prosperity is unfounded? Also, 4. Also take the example of a frail man who, with his own physical strength, cannot even mount a donkey. If he travels with a chakra of ardent, he effortlessly soars through the sky. Can it be declared that because of the weak man's lack of strength, he surely cannot ascend to the sky? 5. Observe a thick rope that cannot be pulled apart by 1,000 men, yet it can be swiftly severed by a boy wielding a sword. How can one assert that the strength of a boy is insufficient to cut apart a thick rope? 6. Think of a toxic feathered bird entering a river and poisoning all fish and mussels. When a rhinoceros horn touches the mud, the dead returns to life. How can we contend that once life is terminated, it cannot be restored? 7. Likewise, the immortal crane revived Xian by calling his name. Can it be maintained that 1,000 years of entombment render revival impossible? Among all dharmas, there exists self-power and other power, self-reliance and other reliance, featuring myriad methods of accentuation and obscuration, boundless and without limit. How then could we, with minds beset by obstructions, question the teachings that are free of obstruction? Moreover, among the 5 inconceivabilities, the Buddha Dharma is the most unfathomable. You presume the karma that binds to the 3 domains to be heavy, and suspect that the brief recitation is too light and insufficient for rebirth in the land of peace and joy, and entry into the assembly of assured enlightenment. This viewpoint is mistaken. Question. A Mahayana Sutra states, the karmic path is like a weighing scale. The heavier karma leads the pull towards the karmic destination. Sentient beings have committed every evil throughout their lifetimes, whether spanning 100 years or 10, up to the present day. How is it that a person who encounters the Dharma friend at life's end is able to attain rebirth through 10 continuous recitations? If this is possible, how can the principle, the heavier karma leads the pull, be credible? Answer. You mean that the evil karma accumulated throughout a lifetime is heavy, and that the virtuous karma from the 10 recitations by the person of the lower grade is light. However, the measure should be made according to the true principles. Being heavy or light is defined by the state of mind, causal conditions, and decisiveness. It doesn't depend on the length of time. How is karmic weight decided by the frame of mind? The evildoer himself relied on his own false, perverted views to create the negative karma. But with the Dharma friend's consolation by skillful means, and upon hearing the teaching of absolute reality, he completed the 10 recitations. The former pertains to falsity and the latter the truth. How can the two be comparable? Consider a room that has been dark for 1,000 years. If light shines in even for a short while, the room immediately brightens. How could the darkness refuse to leave, claiming it has occupied the room for 1,000 years? Therefore, the Kasyapa Parivarta Sutra says, the Buddha said to Bodhisattva Kasyapa, although sentient beings are immersed in passion and desire, shrouded in negative karma for thousands of billions of kalpas, upon hearing a Buddha Sutra and fostering a single thought of virtue, their evil karma is immediately extinguished. This is called decided by the state of mind. How is it decided? By causal conditions. The evildoer himself relied on his own deluded thoughts to create the negative karma. His victims were sentient beings who also suffered from afflictions and illusory karmic retributions. But with supreme faith and reliance on Amitabha Tathagata's name, which is truthful, pure, and infinitely meritorious, the evildoer completed the 10 recitations. It is like that person who has been shot by a poisoned arrow. His tendons and bones are broken. When he hears the beat of a drum coated with antidote, the arrow pops out, and the toxin dissipates. Can anyone say that since the arrow is deeply embedded and the poison is severe, hearing the drum cannot remove the arrow and poison? This is called decided by causal conditions. How is it determined by decisiveness? The wrongdoer created the negative karma by relying on thoughts that were each followed by a distracting thought and interrupted by other miscellaneous ones. But he completed the 10 recitations with no subsequent distracting thoughts. This is called decisiveness. Moreover, according to the treatise on the perfection of wisdom, when sentient beings approach life's end, slicing winds dismantle their forms, and the agony of death presses on, engendering immense terror. Thus, encountering a Dharma friend, developing profound fortitude, and reciting 10 times without uninterrupted mindfulness can augment the virtuous roots, leading to the attainment of rebirth. Consider also someone who confronts an enemy and engages in combat, exhausting every ounce of physical strength in a single movement. in a single moment. The same principle applies to the merit of the 10 recitations. Likewise, if one develops a single wrong thought at the time of death, it amplifies his malevolent mind. It's enough to obliterate the blessings of the 3 domains and directly drives him into a wretched realm. Question. You say that the merit of the 10 recitations at the time of death can overturn a lifetime of negative karma, enabling rebirth in the Pure Land. How much time then did the 10 recitations take? Answer. As stated in the sutra, the temporal length of 100 times arising and ceasing is 1 instant, and 60 instants equal the time of one thought. This provides a broad interpretation of thought according to Scripture. But this time span does not apply to the 10 recitations currently discussed. To recollect either Amitabha Buddha's overall physique or a specific part of it, and contemplate this image for 10 thoughts without the interruption of other mental activities, qualifies as 10 recitations. The sutra also states that the term 10 continuous recitations is merely a numerical expression used by the sacred being, the Buddha. By accumulating recitations with concentrated attention, free from distractions, the reciter accomplishes the karmic path towards rebirth in the Pure Land. There is no need to bother with calculating the number of recitations. The sutra further affirms that experienced practitioners of recitation should mostly follow this principle. For beginners, counting recitations can be beneficial. This guidance is also in accordance with the sacred teachings. Question. I wish to heed your advice and practice Buddha invocation samadhi, but I'm unclean about the manifestations and features. Answer. Imagine someone in an empty, secluded area who encounters a hostile bandit wielding a knife coming straight to kill him. As he flees, he notices a river ahead. Before he gets to the water, he thinks, when I reach the bank, should I strip off my clothes to cross, or should I swim all clothed? If I remove them, I worry there won't be enough time. If I swim with them on, I fear my life will be endangered. At that moment, his only concern is to find the most convenient way to cross the river with no other thoughts distracting him. It is similar with practitioners. Invocation of Amitabha Buddha parallels the man's focus on crossing the river, where each thought seamlessly transitions to the next, free from distraction by extraneous notions. The invocation can center on the Buddha's Dharma body, his divine powers or wisdom, the image of the tuft between his eyebrows, his physical characteristics, or his fundamental vows. Reciting his name is the same. Sustaining exclusively on uninterrupted continuity guarantees rebirth in the Buddha's presence. Future generations of disciples are now advised to harmonize the 2 truths. Simply know that through each invocation, nothing is to be obtained. This represents the gate of wisdom, the ultimate truth. Simultaneously, concentrate on invocation continuously without interruption. This embodies the gate of merit, the worldly truth. Therefore, a sutra says, Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas constantly nurture their minds with merit and wisdom. Beginners are yet unable to penetrate the illusion of phenomenal characteristics. As long as they can rely on phenomenal characteristics with unwavering concentration, they will invariably attain rebirth in the Pure Land. Doubt is unnecessary. Question. The longer Sutra of Infinite Life states, if sentient beings of the 10 directions who earnestly believe and rejoice, wish to be reborn in my land, and recite my name even 10 times, should fail to be born, they may not attain perfect enlightenment. Now, some people in the world, upon hearing the sacred teaching, decide not to pay attention to recitation at all during their lifetime, planning only to practice it at the brink of death. What is to be said about this? Answer. This approach is misguided. Why? The 10 continuous recitations prescribed in the sutra seem not difficult. However, the minds of ordinary beings resemble wild horses. Their consciousness is as restless as monkeys, galloping through the 6 senses without pause. Practitioners must awaken their faith and proactively restrain their thoughts. This allows them to habitualize their recitation so that they become their inherent nature, fortifying their virtuous roots. As the Buddha explained to the great king, those who have accumulated virtuous seeds will not harbor malevolent thoughts at the approach of death, similar to how a tree falls in the direction it is inclined. When the slicing wind of death's moment arrive, inflicting various sufferings upon the body, How can one manage to recite without a previously established habit of practice? It is advisable for groups of 3 to 5 aspirants to reach an agreement on fundamental principles well in advance. As a member approaches the end of life, the others take turns guiding him, reciting Amitabha's name on his behalf, and reinforcing his aspiration to rebirth in the land of peace and joy. The recitation should proceed voice by voice to ensure completion of the 10 recitations for rebirth. It is akin to a wax seal stamping into clay. Once the seal dissolves, the inscription is perfected. The moment of death in this place is the time of rebirth in the land of peace and joy. Entering the assembly of assured enlightenment, what concerns could remain? Everyone should consider this unsurpassed benefit. Why not discipline your thoughts during the present lifetime? Question. The Mahayana scriptures consistently proclaim that all ascending beings are ultimately without birth, akin to the void. Why did Bodhisattva Vasubhanu and Nagarjuna both aspire to rebirth in the Pure Land? Answer. The statement that all ascending beings are ultimately without birth, akin to the void, carries 2 meanings. 1. Ordinary people see truly existing, sentient beings truly existing, births and deaths, and so on. However, from the perspective of bodhisattvas, rebirth is ultimately like the void, like a rabbit's horn. 2. The birth discussed here is that which arises from causes and conditions. Since it arises from causes and conditions, the so-called birth is merely a borrowed term. Being borrowed term birth, it signifies non-birth, aligning with the great principle. This stands in contrast to the truly existing sentient beings and truly existing births and deaths that ordinary people conceive of. Question. Birth is the fundamental origin of existence and the ultimate source of all suffering. Those who recognize this defect and renounce birth to pursue non-birth may find hope for liberation. Now you advise seeking rebirth in the Pure Land, which is to forsake birth in the 3 domains and pursue birth in the Pure Land. How then can birth be fully eradicated? Answer. Rebirth in the Pure Land is a birthless birth, relying on the pure original vows of Amitabha Tathagata. It is nothing like the births of sentient beings in the 3 domains, which are tainted by passion, delusion, and clinging. Why is that? Because the Dharma nature is perfectly pure and ultimately birthless. The term reborn/rebirth here is used simply to accommodate the standard sentiments of those who seek rebirth in the Pure Land. Question. Those who understand birthless birth, explained above, should be those reborn in the upper tier. But for a person of the lower grade who seeks rebirth in the Pure Land by dint of the 10 recitations, does he not hold the actual birth? If so, he would be faced with 2 concerns. 1. Failure to achieve rebirth in the Pure Land, and 2. Merits associated with such phenomenal characteristics could not constitute a cause for the realization of non-birth arising. Answer. There are 3 points of explanation. 1. Think in terms of a pure Muni pearl. When it is placed in filthy water, through the power of the pearl, the water immediately becomes clear and clean. Consider a person with the immense filth of negative karma that would otherwise entrap him in an endless cycle of rebirth. If he hears Amitabha Tathagata's name, a pearly, supreme name of purity and non-birth, it enters his turbid mind. Thought by thought, his negative karma is extricated and his mind is purified. He will forthwith be reborn in the Pure Land. 2. When that Muni pearl is wrapped in a piece of colored silk and dropped in water, the water instantly takes the color of the silk. In the Pure Land there is an unexcelled pearl, Amitabha Tathagata's name. This pearl is wrapped in a silk piece of countless accomplished merits. When it is submerged in the water of the reborn being's mind, why can't it convert her wrongful belief into the realness of birth, into the wisdom of non-birth? 3. Another example is to light a fire on an icy surface. The intense flame melts the ice. Once the ice thaws, the fire dies. That person of the lower grade is unaware that the Dharma nature is birthless. But by relying on the power of Amitabha recitation, she engages her mind in rebirth in the Pure Land and aspires to such rebirth. After she reaches the realm of non-birth, the fire of her mistaken belief in the realness of birth spontaneously goes out. Question. By what body is it said that one is reborn in the Pure Land? Answer. In this world, a borrowed term person practices various paths. Each invocation constitutes the cause of the next one. The borrowed term person in this defiled realm and the borrowed term person in that Pure Land, after his rebirth, are neither entirely identical nor completely different. Nor is his every thought and subsequent thought. Why is that? If they were entirely identical, causality would not exist. If they were completely different, they would not be in continuation. According to this principle, despite the distinctions in dimension and duration, it is invariably the same practitioner. Question. If merely reciting the Buddha's name can eliminate obstacles, then it is akin to a person pointing to the moon with his finger. The finger should be able to remove darkness. Answer. Phenomena differ in countless ways and should not be covered by the same rule. How so? There are cases where names themselves are the phenomena they denote. There are also names that differ from the phenomena they represent. The former include the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, spells, mystical terms, and phrases from the scriptures. For example, terms to cure swelling contain incantations, one of which reads Richu Dongfang, Zaiqi Za Huang. The sun rises in the east, red at first and yellow later. Yet even if the curative spell is cast at dusk or midnight, the patient will also be cured. Also consider a person bitten by a dog. Applying heat to the wound with a fire-warm tiger bone can heal the injury. If a tiger bone is not available, rubbing the palm over the wound while calling tiger comes, can also initiate recovery. Another instance involves someone suffering from leg cramps. Pressing a papaya branch heated by fire directly onto the affected area brings immediate relief. Should a papaya not be on hand, press in the area with a warm palm while chanting papaya, papaya also dispels the cramp. I once applied this method to perfect effect. Why is that? Because those names themselves are the phenomena they denote. Names that are different from the phenomena they represent are like the finger pointing at the moon. Question. Merely reciting Amitabha's name can eliminate the darkness of ignorance for sentient beings of the 10 directions, leading to rebirth in the Pure Land. However, there are sentient beings who do not recite Amitabha's name and recollect him, but whose ignorance persists. Their wishes are not satisfied. Why is that? Answer. Because they fail to practice according to the ultimate reality and do not correspond to the meaning of the name. What does this mean? It means they do not know that the Tathagata is the body of absolute reality and the body for the benefit of living beings. Furthermore, there are 3 kinds of non-correspondence. 1. One's faith is not genuine. It's sometimes there, sometimes not. 2. One's faith is not concentrated, lacks resoluteness. 3. One's faith is not continuous. It is interrupted by other thoughts. These kinds of faith are interdependent in reverse order. Continuous faith can lead to concentrated faith. When faith is single-minded, it becomes genuine. Possessing all these 3 kinds of faith is not achieving rebirth in the Pure Land is simply not possible. The third great teaching. The third teaching comprises 4 sections. 1. Distinction between the difficult path and the easy path. 2. Different durations of kalpas. 3. Clarification that for infinite kalpas, we have been ensnared in the 5 realms and of the 3 domains, driven by positive and negative karma, receiving retributions of joy and suffering, and reincarnating non-stop over countless lifetimes. 4. Invocation of sacred teachings as evidence to motivate future generations to awaken faith and aspire to rebirth in the Pure Land. 1. The difficult path and the easy path. This section differentiates between the difficult path and the easy path. It consists of 2 subsections. 1. Introduction to the 2 paths. 2. Questions and answers. I dwell in the burning realm, which fills me with fear to contemplate. Thanks to the great sage's teachings on the 3 vehicles, I find solace and direction. However, the carts of goats and deer, the Shravaka and Pratyeka Buddha paths offer only temporary respite, not the ultimate goal. The Buddha criticizes these paths as misguided attachments, an obstacle to the pursuit of Bodhi. There may be a subsequent transition to Mahayana, but the route is still roundabout. Directly boarding the great vehicle would be an alternate route. I fear that in my current state of retrogression, the journey ahead will be lengthy and perilous. Without establishing virtues of my own, advancement will be difficult. Therefore, Bodhisattva Nagarjuna states, there are two paths to pursue non-retrogression, avavart, the difficult path, and the easy path. The difficult path means that it is hard to pursue non-retrogression in the world of five turbidities at a time when there is no Buddha. There are many aspects to the difficulty, roughly five. What are they? 1. Non-Buddhist paths appear to be virtuous but sabotage the Bodhisattva teachings. 2. The way of the Shravaka focuses on self-benefit and impedes the awakening of great compassion. 3. Rogues and villains destroy others' outstanding virtues. 4. The positive fruits in the heavenly and human realms are subversive, undermining the pure practices. 5. Practitioners rely only on self-power and lack support from other power. Such things can be seen everywhere. It is like traveling overland on foot on an arduous journey. Therefore, it is called the difficult path. The easy path signifies that by believing in Amitabha Buddha and aspiring to be reborn in the Pure Land, one develops faith, establishes virtues, and cultivates all practices. By dint of the Buddha's vow power, one will attain rebirth in the Pure Land. There the person will be sustained and supported by Buddha power and immediately join the great vehicle assembly of assured enlightenment. The assured enlightenment is precisely avavart, the state of non-retrogression. It is like sailing on water, which is joyous. So it is termed the easy path. Question. Bodhi is singular, and thus the cultivation of its causes ought to be non-dual as well. Why is cultivating the causes toward Buddhahood in this world called the difficult path, while seeking rebirth in the Pure Land in pursuit of the great Bodhi termed the easy path? Answer. As expounded in Mahayana Sutras, among all practices there exists self-power, other power, self-deliverance, and other deliverance. What is self-power? It can be exemplified by a person who, motivated by fear of birth and death, resolves to pursue enlightenment. He renounces lay life, cultivates meditation, and thereby attains supernatural abilities, traveling through the four continents. Thus, this is known as self-power. What is other power? Take the example of a frail man who is unable to mount a donkey using his own physical strength. Yet by following a chakravartin, he soars in the sky and travels through the four continents. This occurs because he relies on the power of the chakravartin, hence the term other power. The same applies to sentient beings. If one makes resolutions and engages in practice in this world, aspiring to rebirth in the Pure Land, this exemplifies self-power. At the time of a person's death, Amitabha Tathagata appears with a radiant lotus throne to welcome him, and the person is reborn in the Pure Land. This represents other power. Therefore, the longer sutra says, human and celestial beings of the 10 directions who wish to be reborn in my land all rely on the karmic power of Amitabha Tathagata's great vows as the augmentative cause. If this were not so, the 40 vows would have been made in vain. Advice to future practitioners: since other power is available for you to rely on, do not restrict yourselves and linger in the burning house for nothing. 2. Different durations of kalpas. This section clarifies the different durations of kalpas. As stated in the treatise on the perfection of wisdom, there are 3 types of kalpas: small, middle, and great. Imagine a city extending 40 li in length, width, and height, completely filled with mustard seeds. A celestial being who lives a very long life removes 1 seed every 3 years. The time it takes to remove all the seeds is known as a small kalpa. Similarly, consider a city 80 li in each dimension, also burning with mustard seeds. The period required to clear all the seeds in the same manner as previously described is defined as a middle kalpa. For a city that spends 120 li in every direction, thoroughly filled with mustard seeds, the duration to deplete all the seeds, following the method outlined above, is assigned as a great kalpa. Alternatively, envision a rock measuring 80 li in each dimension. Every 3 years, a celestial being with a long life gently brushes it once with his heavenly garment, which weighs 3 zu, an extremely small measure of weight. This action continues until the rock completely vanishes. The time for this process is termed a middle kalpa. The time frames for smaller and larger rocks can be inferred by referring to the kalpas in the earlier metaphor. Detailed elaboration is unnecessary. 3. Endless transmigrations. This section consists of 5 subsections. 1. This subsection clarifies that across beginningless kalpas, sentient beings have been perpetually transmigrating through samsara in this realm, reincarnating with countless bodily existences. As expounded in the treatise on the perfection of wisdom within the human realm, a person may pass away in the Zhang family and be reborn in the Wang clan. Taking leave of the Wangs, he may enter life anew in the Li family. In this manner, across the entirety of the Jambavippa realm, one may be reborn within the same lineage or among various households. Sometimes a person who dies in Jambavippa in the south is reborn in Apara Godaniya in the west, and the cycle repeats as in Jambavippa. This pattern of rebirth extends to the other continents as well. Similarly, passing from the 4 continents to rebirth in the heaven of the 4 great kings adheres to this pattern. From there, beings move to the heaven of Chaishrimsa and subsequently to the other 4 superior heavens of the desire realm, all within the same cyclical process. The form realm encompasses 18 heavens, and the formless realm contains 4. Beings transition from death in one realm to rebirth in another, transmigrating through all these heavens in the same manner. Moreover, one may depart the form realm to be reborn in the Avicii hell. From Avicii hell, move to milder hells, then to the animal realm, from the animal realm to the realm of hungry ghosts, and from the realm of hungry ghosts back to the human or celestial realms. Thus, beings reincarnate through the 6 realms, enduring the retributions of suffering and joy within the endless cycle of birth and death. This applies not only to beings born from wombs, but also to those arising through the other 3 modes of birth. Therefore, the Siddharma Smriti Upasthana Sutra, Sutra Mindfulness of the Correct Dharma, states, through myriad lives, beings transmigrate, chasing joy and idling path not to cultivate. Unaware, as their store of merit dwindles, they fall into wretched realms, suffering woes swindles. And the Nirvana Sutra says, this body, a vessel of sufferings amassed, is impure through, with no part bypassed. Constraints, abscesses, and ailments abound. Delving into its core, no worth is found. Even bodies in the celestial domains share this truth, being all the same. The sutra further declares, practice non-indulgence. Why? Because indulgence is the root of all misdeeds, while non-indulgence is the fountainhead of all virtues. Like the brilliance of the sun and moon, the most luminous among all lights, so too is the practice of non-indulgence. It stands supreme among all virtuous dharmas. Just as Mount Samur surpasses all other mountains in height, non-indulgence similarly exceeds all virtuous dharmas in superiority. Why is that? All unwholesome dharmas stem from indulgence, whereas all virtuous dharmas originate in non-indulgence. 2. On the number of bodily existences undergone in one kalpa. Question. Although it is said that transmigration in the 6 realms has been balanced over meaningless kalpas, how many bodily existences must one assume within a single kalpa to be considered transmigration? Answer, as the Nirvana Sutra says, take all the grass and plants in the 30,000-fold great chiliocosm, cut them into 4-inch pieces, and you all use those pieces to count the parents of the bodily existences one assumes during a kalpa. Even then, the count would not be complete. The sutra also declares, the amount of mother's milk one consumes in a kalpa exceeds the waters of the 4 great oceans. It further proclaims, the bones from one's bodies accumulated over one kalpa reach the height of Mount Vaipulya. Thus, through countless kalpas, we have undergone births and deaths to no avail. To this day, we remain as ordinary beings. Have we ever reflected upon this? It is truly saddening and lamentable. 3. Citation of scriptures as evidence. Question. Given the statement that beings have assumed countless bodily existences over vast kalpas, is this a general assertion made solely to provoke a sense of revulsion towards samsara? Or is it also substantiated by scriptural evidence? Answer. This is all based on explicit texts from sacred teachings. Which ones? As stated in the Lotus Sutra, in the distant past, inexpressibly remote great kalpas ago, a Buddha named Tathagata Mahabhijna Jnana Bibu, great power and transcendent knowledge appeared in the world. 16 princes ascended Dharma thrones to enlighten sentient beings. Each converted as many beings as 6 million billion nayutas of the grains of sand in the Ganges River. Since the Buddha's parinirvana, an immensely long period has elapsed, beyond any possible calculation. How is this? The sutra explains. Take all the earth from the threefold great chilocosm and grind it into ink. The Buddha says, each time this person passes 1,000 lands, he drops an ink dot the size of a dust particle. This continues until all the ink is dispersed across the ground. The Buddha says, if all the lands the person has passed, both dotted and undotted, are reduced to dust, and each dust particle represents a kalpa, then the time elapsed since that Buddha's parinirvana exceeds the total number of such kalpas. The sentient beings present today were those who, at that time, received teachings under the thrones of the 16 princes. Therefore, the sutra continues. Due to these original causes and conditions, I expound the Lotus Sutra. The Nirvana Sutra further declares, one was a prince and the other was a person of humble means. These two mutually interacted. The one referenced to as the prince is the current Tathagata Shakyamuni, who is the 16th prince of the previous time. The one referred to as the person of humble means represents sentient beings today. 4. Frequent rebirth into bodily existences in the three wretched realms. Question. These sentient beings have been described as transmigrating through numerous kalpas. In which of the three domains do they most often take rebirth? Answer. Although described as transmigrating, they predominantly take rebirth in the three wretched realms. In space, define a plane area with a circumference of 8 cubits. Within this area, extending from Earth up to Akanastha heaven, the total number of visible beings already exceeds that of the humans and celestials combined in the threefold great chiliocosm. We thus know that more beings take rebirth in the three wretched realms. Why is that? Because negative karma arises easily, while cultivating a virtuous mind is difficult. Observe the current beings. Upon acquiring wealth and status, they solely engage in indulgence and violate precepts. In the heavens, most celestial beings are preoccupied with pleasure. Thus, the sutra says, sentient beings transmigrate in this manner, with the three wretched realms as their perpetual home. Temporary residences before swift departure, the human and celestial abodes are hence termed guest houses. The treatise on great adornment recommends that all sentient beings constantly constrain their thoughts and maintain correct mindfulness. Its Gatha states, in life's prime, untouched by sickness, indulgence reigns and diligence is lacking. As worldly affairs seize every thought, giving precepts and meditation are neglected. Only with death's approach does remorse awaken, and virtuous practice begin. The wise should view things clearly, and sever ties to the 5 desires. Those cultivating the mind diligently feel no regret at life's end. With a keen mind and sharp focus, chaotic thoughts do not arise. The wise sincerely focus their minds, which do not stray as death approaches. For those who lack practice and concentration, life's end brings only chaos and confusion. When the mind is chaos-prone, it's like taming horses with a millstone. In battle, when advances do, they circle and fail to follow through. 5. Reasons for transmigration through countless kalpas. Question. All sentient beings possess Buddha nature. They should have encountered numerous Buddhas over countless kalpas. Why are they still reincarnating in the cycle of birth and death, unable to escape the burning house? Answer. According to the sacred Mahayana teachings, one remains in the burning house because of failure to attain either of the 2 supreme approaches to overcoming the cycle of birth and death. What are these 2? One is the sacred path, and the other is rebirth in the Pure Land. The sacred path, one of the 2 approaches, is difficult to realize in this age. Firstly, because we are far removed from the era of the great sage. Secondly, due to the profoundness of the Dharma principle and the limitations of our comprehension. Hence, the Moonstore Sutra in the Great Compilation states, in the age of Dharma decline, billions and billions of sentient beings will engage in the practice of the way, and no one will attain it. During the current age of Dharma decline, in this unwholesome world of the five derivatives, only the path of the Pure Land provides a clear route to the gateway of enlightenment. Therefore, the Longer Sutra says, should sentient beings, even if they've done evil all their lives, recite my name continuously 10 times as death approaches, and fail to be born in the Pure Land, may not attain perfect enlightenment. Moreover, all sentient beings do not recognize their own limitations. In the context of Mahayana, the true suchness, the ultimate reality, and the first principle emptiness have never been within the reach of the mind. As for the lesser vehicle, Theravada, whether it be entering the stages of seeing the truth and practicing the path, achieving the states of Anagami and Arhat, eliminating the 5 lower fetters, or renouncing the 5 higher ones, neither monastics nor lay practitioners have yet succeeded. Even if there are karmic rewards pertinent to the human and celestial realms, they result solely from observing the 5 precepts and undertaking the 10 good actions. However, those who successfully uphold these are exceedingly rare. When it comes to engaging in malevolence and committing transgressions, how are they different from a violent storm? Thus, out of great compassion, all Buddhas recommend seeking rebirth in the Pure Land. Even if one is engaged in wholesome actions throughout life, dedicating his focus and continually reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha will naturally dissolve all obstacles, ensuring his rebirth in the Pure Land. Why not contemplate this? What holds you back from aspiring to that destination? 4. Citations from Scriptures to awaken faith. This section references the sacred teachings as evidence to encourage the awakening of faith and the pursuit of rebirth in the Pure Land. The Sutra on Buddha Contemplation Samadhi states, at that time, Bodhisattva, foremost wealth in the assembly, addressed the Buddha. World Honored One, I remember countless kalpas ago. World Honored One, I remember countless kalpas ago, a Buddha also named Shakyamuni appeared in the world. After his parinirvana, there was a prince known as Gold Banner. He was arrogant, held incorrect views, and lacked faith in the correct Dharma. A teacher bhikkhu, Samadhi Freedom, told the prince, in the world, there are Buddha statues of extraordinary loveliness. Let us enter the pagoda for a moment to behold the Buddha's image. Heeding this virtuous friend's suggestion, the prince went into the pagoda to view the statue. Upon seeing its majestic form, he commented to the bhikkhu, the Buddha statue is dignified and resplendent. Even more imagine the true body of the Buddha. The bhikkhu recommended, Prince, if you find yourself unable to pay homage to the Buddha statue before you now, simply utter Namo Buddha. Upon returning to his palace, the prince continually thought of the statue in the pagoda. Late that night, in a dream, he beheld the Buddha's image, experiencing profound joy in his heart. Subsequently, he renounced his wrongful views and sought refuge in the 3 gems. After the end of that life, due to the merit accrued from entering the pagoda and reciting Namo Buddha, he encountered 90 billion Nayuta Buddhas. In the presence of these Buddhas, he diligently pursued his practice, consistently achieving the profound Buddha invocation samadhi. By the power of this samadhi, all Buddhas appeared before him, each bestowing predictions of his enlightenment. Since then, over 1 million Asamkhya kalpas, he never descended into the wretched realms, and has to this day attained the Shurangama Samadhi. The prince of the previous time is none other than myself, foremost wealth. At that time in the assembly, innumerable Mahasattvas from the 10 directions share their original causal circumstances from past lives, all having achieved their fruition through Buddha invocation. The Buddha said to Ananda, this Buddha contemplation samadhi is the medicine for all beings who have committed transgressions, a protector for precept breakers, a guide for the strayed, sight for the blind, wisdom for the unwise, and light for those in darkness. It is the valiant leader in the battle against afflictions, an effortlessly play of all Buddhas, world honor ones, and the origin of all great samadhis, including the Shrangama Samadhi. The Buddha instructed Ananda, you must now hold on to this and be cautious not to forget it. Buddhas of the past, present, and future all teach this same Buddha invocation samadhi. I, along with the Buddhas of the 10 directions and the 1,000 Buddhas of this auspicious kalpa, have relied on the power of Buddha invocation samadhi from the moment we first awakened the Bodhi mind. Through this we have attained all-inclusive wisdom. Moreover, as stated in the Sutra on Questions of Moggallana, the Buddha explained to Moggallana, imagine 10,000 rivers flowing long distances, carrying drifts of weeds and tree limbs. The floats in the front and those behind cannot see each other, yet all eventually merge into the great ocean. Similarly, in the world, though the wealthy and noble enjoy riches, pleasure, and freedom, none can evade birth, aging, sickness, and death. Due to their disbelief in the teachings of the Buddha, when reborn as humans in future lives, they will endure even greater adversities, failing to be reborn in the lands of the 1,000 Buddhas. Therefore, I said that the land of the infinite life Buddha is readily accessible and within easy reach. Yet people do not practice for rebirth there, opting instead for the 95 misguided paths. I thus name them the eyeless and the earless. Given these teachings of the scriptures, why not forsake the difficult and embrace the easy path? Namo Amitabha, second fascicle. The fourth great teaching. The fourth teaching comprises 3 sections. 1. The Indian Tripitaka master, Bodhiruchi, together with venerable masters of this land, China, has meticulously examined the sacred teachings and expressed admiration and aspiration for the Pure Land. It is advisable to follow their lead. 2. Based on the essence of this sutra, the Contemplation Sutra, along with other Mahayana scriptures, Buddha invocation samadhi is specifically emphasized as the cardinal path for both sacred and ordinary beings to pursue and enter. 3. Questions and answers are presented to demonstrate that practitioners of Buddha invocation attain various inconceivable functions and benefits. 1. Activities by masters advocating Buddha invocation. This section introduces the activities of the Indian and Chinese masters. Blindfolded by the 5 hindrances, as if facing a wall, how could I readily be presumptuous? Yet, through journeys and detailed examination, I have respectfully traced a lineage of teachers. Who are they? The list includes Venerable Bodhiruchi from India, a Tripitaka master of Mahayana, Master Huichang, a venerable sage who criticized and renounced fame and wealth, Master Daochuo, another esteemed sage whose regular discourses consistently attracted sacred monastics to come and listen, the Venerable Tanluan, a revered master celebrated for his discreet brilliance and solitary dedication, earning admiration across 2 nations, Venerable Dahai, a Chan master who displayed unparalleled excellence in meditative contemplation, Master Shangtang of the Qi dynasty who demonstrated superb intellect and strict observance of precepts. The aforementioned 6 paragons each stand as a divine mirror of the 2 truths. They are exemplars of the fundamental principles of the Buddha Dharma. Their resolve and actions are outstanding, distinguishing them as exceptional throughout history. They have rigorously studied the Mahayana teachings and have acclaimed rebirth in the Pure Land as the paramount path of importance. Question. Since it is said they acclaimed rebirth in the Pure Land as the cardinal path, did these virtuous figures exhibit any miraculous signs at the time of their passing? Answer. Yes, indeed, there were such signs. Consider the example of Master Tanluan, who devoted himself to the practice of the Pure Land teachings throughout his life. At times, worldly gentlemen came to confront him with criticisms such as, all Buddha lands in the 10 directions are pure realms. Why do you solely concentrate on the West? Does this not generate a bias? To this, Master Tanluan responded, as I am but an ordinary person, my wisdom is superficial and limited. Not having attained any sacred stage, I must keep my mental strength concentrated. It is akin to placing grass in a manger to draw and maintain the cattle's focus. How could they be allowed to roam freely without a destination? Despite facing numerous criticisms, Master Tanlawan remained unwavering. Thus, all who met him, even just once, whether monastics or laypersons, were either encouraged to awaken to the correct faith, if they had not already done so, or inspired to pursue rebirth in the Pure Land, if they already possessed such faith. As Master Tanlawan approached the end of his life, monks and lay people around the temple observed auspicious phenomena such as banners and flowers shining upon the courtyard, a mysterious fragrance enveloping the area, and celestial music heralding his welcome. It was then that he made his departure to the Pure Land. Similarly, the other masters also displayed auspicious signs at the end of their lives. The details of the extraordinary manifestations upon their rebirths are indeed beyond comprehension. 2. Buddha invocation emphasized in various scriptures. This section clarifies that both this sutra, the Contemplation Sutra, and numerous other texts establish Buddha invocation samadhi as their core essence. It is organized into 8 subsections. The first 2 focus on single feature samadhi, while the remaining 6 delve into Buddha invocation samadhi, examining it through diverse causal conditions and phenomenal manifestations. 1. According to the Flower Hand Sutra, the Buddha told Bodhisattva firm will. There are 2 kinds of samadhi, single feature samadhi and multi-feature samadhi. In single feature samadhi, a Bodhisattva, upon hearing that Tathagata is presently expounding the Dharma in his world, visualizes this Buddha's image before him, whether seated in the teaching assembly or turning the Dharma wheel, surrounded by a multitude of followers. Upon envisioning such an image, the Bodhisattva restrains all sensory faculties to prevent the mind from wandering, concentrating intently on invoking that single Buddha without relinquishing this focus. Through this practice, the Bodhisattva realizes the non-characteristic essence underlying the features of both the Buddha and the world. Consistently contemplating and practicing in this manner, the Bodhisattva never deviates from this object of contemplation. At that moment, the image of the Buddha appears before the Bodhisattva to expound the Dharma for him. Filled with deep respect, the Bodhisattva listens and embraces the teachings, whether profound or basic, thereby intensifying his reverence. Abiding in this samadhi, the Bodhisattva learns that all phenomena are subject to the dissolution of their features. Upon hearing this, he embraces and memorizes the teaching. Emerging from the samadhi, he is then able to expound this Dharma to the 4 groups of disciples. The Buddha told firm will. This has turned the Bodhisattva's entrance into the gateway of one-feature samadhi. 2. The Manjushri Prajna Sutra elaborates on single practice samadhi, stating, at that time, Manjushri addressed the Buddha, World Honored One, how is single practice samadhi defined? The Buddha replied, single practice samadhi occurs when good men and women in empty, quiet places cast aside all scattered thoughts and face the direction of a Buddha with an upright posture. Rather than envisioning any physical appearance, they focus entirely on the single Buddha, reciting the Buddha's name exclusively without cease. In such recitation, they can see the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. Why is this? The merit and virtue of reciting the name of one Buddha are infinite and limitless, no different from those of reciting countless Buddhas. This is known as Bodhisattva's single practice samadhi. 3. In the Nirvana Sutra, the Buddha explains, if a person with utter sincerity consistently cultivates Buddha invocation samadhi, all Buddhas from the 10 directions will perpetually perceive this person as if physically present before the individual. Therefore, the Nirvana Sutra states, the Buddha told Bodhisattva Kasyapa, if good men and women with utter sincerity consistently invoke a Buddha exclusively, whether in mountains, forests, towns, or villages, by day or by night, whether sitting or lying down, all Buddhas, world outer ones, will constantly perceive those persons as if physically present before their eyes, perpetually accompanying them and accepting their offerings. 4. According to the Contemplation Sutra and other scriptures, all myriad practices, if accompanied by the dedication of merit with the aspiration for rebirth in the Pure Land, invariably lead to such rebirth. However, the practice of Buddha recitation is considered the essential path. Why is that? Because an examination of the sacred teachings reveals two types of benefits, initial and the ultimate. If the aim is to cultivate good karma and engage in virtuous practices, then all paramitas are encompassed in Buddha recitation. If the goal is to eradicate negative karma and dispel misfortune, it universally removes all hindrances. Hence, the Contemplation Sutra further states, sentient beings who recite Amitabha's name are always embraced, never abandoned. Upon death, they are assured of rebirth in the Pure Land. This is termed the initial benefit. The ultimate benefit is described in the Sutra of Avalokiteshvara's prophecies. Amitabha Buddha possesses a long, enduring presence that spans countless kalpas. Yet he too will enter parinirvana. During his parinirvana, only Avalokiteshvara and Mahasamprapta will remain to preside over the land of peace and joy, welcoming and guiding sentient beings from the 10 directions. The duration of the Buddha's parinirvana equals the time of his appearance in his land. During that period, sentient beings in that land will not see the Buddha, except for those who have attained rebirth there through consistent exclusive recitation of Amitabha's name. These beings will constantly behold Amitabha, always present without extinction. This represents the ultimate benefit. While other practices, when dedicated to rebirth in the Pure Land, all lead to such rebirth. Following the parinirvana of that world honorable, some will be able to see him, while others will not. Future generations are advised to contemplate this thoughtfully to ensure they attain the ultimate benefit. 5. The Pratipana Sutra recounts, at that time Bodhisattva Bhadrapala in this world learned of Amitabha Buddha. He consistently focused his mind on him, and through this mindfulness he beheld the Buddha. Upon seeing the Buddha, he inquired about the practice that could lead to rebirth in the Pure Land. Amitabha Buddha responded, those who wish to be reborn in my land should consistently recite my name without interruption. By doing so, they will secure rebirth in my land. They should contemplate my Buddha body, endowed with the 32 physical marks, radiating light throughout, and unmatched in majesty. 6. The treatise on the perfection of wisdom offers 3 explanations. 1. Buddhas are the supreme Dharma kings, and Bodhisattvas serve as ministers of the Dharma. The sole objects of their veneration and esteem are the Buddhas, the world honored ones. Therefore, one should constantly invoke the Buddhas. 2. Certain Bodhisattvas reflect inwardly over countless kalpas. The world honored ones have continuously fostered my Dharma body, wisdom body, and great compassion body. My samadhi, wisdom, and infinite practices and vows have all been accomplished. Thanks to the Buddhas. To repay their benevolence, I shall constantly vow to be near the Buddhas. Like a minister who, favored by his king, continues to keep the Lord in mind. 3. Some Bodhisattvas further reflect. In the causal ground, I encounter a malevolent teacher leading me to slender prajna and fall into their charms for countless kalpas. Although I pursued other practices, I could not achieve liberation. Later, relying on a virtuous Dharma mentor who instructed me to practice Buddha invocation samadhi, I was able to dispel hindrances and finally attain liberation. Given such profound benefits, I vow never to depart from Buddhas. 7. The Avatamsaka Sutra states, across vast and innumerable kalpas, I bore each and every pain. Never did I stray from the Tathagatas or failed to witness their unconstrained power. The sutra also says, through invocation samadhi, I will surely see the Buddha, reborn before him upon life's end. Urge those near death to recite the Buddha's name. Show them a sacred image to inspire their reverence. Further, the sutra states, Sudana, during his visit to Dharma mentors, reached the abode of Bhikkhu Meritorious Cloud and asked, Great Master, how should one cultivate the Bodhisattva path and adhere to the practices of Samantabhaja? At that time, the Bhikkhu replied to Sudana, in the vast ocean of the world honored one's wisdom, I know only one method called the path of Buddha invocation samadhi. What is it? Within this samadhi, one can see all Buddhas and their kinsfolk, as well as their magnificent pure Buddha lands. It enables sentient beings to steer clear of perverse thoughts. Buddha invocation samadhi allows the practitioner to perceive within the subtle realms the domains of absolute freedom of all Buddhas, guaranteeing the attainment of non-pervasion through countless kalpas. This samadhi brings forth all Buddha abodes impervious to destruction, facilitating a universal vision of all Buddhas and maintaining non-perversion across the 3 time frames. Then Bhikkhu, meritorious cloud, said to Sudana, the Buddha Dharma is a profound ocean, vast and boundless. What I have grasped is solely this path of Buddha invocation, samadhi, other wondrous realms exceeding enumeration, and remain beyond my knowledge. 8. According to the Sutra on the Ocean Dragon King, at that moment the Sea Dragon King inquired of the Buddha, O Lama One, as a disciple seeking to be reborn in Amitabha Buddha's land, what practice should I undertake to achieve rebirth in that realm? The Buddha replied to the Dragon King, those who wish to be reborn in that realm ought to adhere to 8 practices. What are these 8? They are 1. Constantly invoking the Buddhas. 2. Presenting offerings to the Tathagatas. 3. Extolling the world honored ones. 4. Crafting images of the Buddhas and cultivating virtues. 5. Dedicating merits towards rebirth in that land. 6. Sustaining unyielding and robust heart. 7. Progressing with steadfast diligence. 8. Pursuing the authentic wisdom of the Buddhas. The Buddha told the Dragon King, while somebody who is practicing these 8 methods will never be apart from the Buddhas. Question. Without fully practicing all the 8 methods, can one still be reborn before a Buddha and remain not separate from the Buddhas? Answer. Certainly one can be reborn there without doubt. How do we know? When the Buddha spoke the Jewel Cloud Sutra, he stated that fulfilling 10 practices leads to rebirth in the Pure Land and ensures one is never apart from the Buddhas. At that time, Bodhisattva Sarva Nivara Naviskambini as the Buddha. If not all the 10 practices are perfected, will rebirth still be attained? The Buddha responded, yes, rebirth will be attained. If among the 10 practices one is perfectly completed without deficiency, the remaining 9 are all considered pure. Do not doubt this. The Sutra on the King of the Mahadruma Kinnaras states, Bodhisattvas who practice 4 methods will never depart from the presence of Buddhas. What are these 4? They are 1. Cultivating virtuous practices personally and encouraging all other sentient beings also to aspire to rebirth so as to behold Tathagatas. 2. Motivating both themselves and others to delight in hearing the correct Dharma. 3. Stimulating both themselves and others to awaken the Bodhi mind. 4. Practicing Buddha invocation samadhi persistently and single-mindedly. By accomplishing these 4 practices wherever they are reborn, they will always be in the presence of Buddhas, never separating from them. The sutra also states, the Buddha expounds the Bodhisattva practices, detailing 32 means. What are these? Generosity is the means to great wealth, forbearance the means to a noble demeanor, adherence to precepts the means to a hallowed physique, the 5 transgressions and lack of filial piety are the means leading to the hellish punishments of blade mountains, sword forests, and boiling cauldrons. Developing Bodhi mind is the means to Buddhahood. Persistent Buddha invocation and rebirth in the Pure Land are the means for beholding Buddhas. Only 6 are briefly listed here, with the rest not elaborated upon. Given the sacred teaching, why should practitioners not constantly invoke Amitabha Buddha if they aspire to rebirth in the Pure Land? Further, the Moon Lamp Samadhi Sutra states, recollecting the Buddha's features and virtues, all sense faculties are calm and subdued. The mind is unclouded in the Dharma's fusion, gaining lore and wisdom vast as the ocean. Within this samadhi, the wise serenely reside, all thoughts restrained, striding in the meditation site. They see Tathagatas hundreds of billions in number and meet myriad Buddhas like sands of the Ganges River. 3. Benefits of Buddha invocation samadhi. This section, through questions and answers, demonstrates the various benefits of Buddha invocation samadhi and is divided into 5 subsections. Question. Now that constant practice of Buddha invocation samadhi is recommended, does this exclude the practice of other samadhis? Answer. The emphasis on constant invocation does not mean to exclude the practice of other samadhis. It simply indicates that Buddha invocation samadhi is practiced more frequently. Therefore, it is described as constant. This does not imply that other samadhis are entirely neglected. Question: given the recommendation to practice Buddha invocation samadhi constantly, is there a hierarchical difference between it and other samadhis? Answer: the superlative attributes of Buddha invocation samadhi are unfathomable. How do we know? As stated in the Mahayana teachings in the treatise on the perfection of wisdom, all other samadhis are indeed samadhis. Why then is Buddha invocation samadhi supreme? Because some samadhis may only remove greed and not address anger or ignorance. Others may dispel anger but not ignorance or greed. Still others may eliminate ignorance but leave greed and anger untouched. Some samadhis may only clear present obstacles, failing to deal with those from the past and future. Through constant practice of Buddha invocation samadhi, all obstacles, whether present, past, or future, are eradicated. Question: given that Buddha invocation samadhi can remove obstacles, bring blessings, and produce great benefits, can it also provide practitioners with nourishment and prolong their lives? Answer: certainly. Why is that? The Sutra on Soul Practice of Samadhi says, there were two brothers. The elder believed in karma, while the younger did not. The younger brother, skilled in physiognomy, saw in his reflection the sign of impending death, indicating he had no more than 7 days to live. A wise person then advised him to seek guidance from the Buddha. The Buddha responded, the 7-day prediction is accurate. If you single-mindedly invoke the Buddha and observe precepts, there might be an opportunity to overcome this adversity. Following this advice, he invoked the Buddha with focused devotion. On the 6th day, 2 demons came to take him. When they heard his reciting voice, they could not proceed. They returned and reported to King Yama, who then altered the decree of death. Due to the virtue of observing precepts and invoking the Buddha, he is to be reborn in the 3rd Yama heaven. Moreover, the Sutra of Parables recounts the story of an elder who disbelieved in karmic retribution and reward. Having reached the age of 50, he one night dreamed of a Rakshasa demon presenting a death decree, intending to claim his life within 10 days. Upon waking, he was seized with an overwhelming terror. At daybreak, he sought a diviner to interpret his dream. A diviner to interpret his dream. The diviner, after casting a hexagram, foretold, a Rakshasa will certainly take your life within 10 days. Struck by fear, the elder turned to the Buddha for guidance. The Buddha advised, to evade this peril from this day forward, concentrate on Buddha invocation, observe the precepts, burn incense, light lamps, hang silk banners and canopies, and cultivate faith in the 3 gems. This will protect you from death. He promptly adopted this guidance with unwavering faith and devotion. As the Rakshasa reached the elder's doorstep and saw him cultivating virtuous deeds, it found itself unable to harm him and swiftly withdrew. Thanks to these virtuous deeds, the man lived to the age of 100, and upon his passing was reborn in heaven. There was another elder named Steadfast Observing, who renounced his priesthood vows and returned them to the Buddha. Immediately he was assaulted by a malevolent demon. Question: does Buddha invocation samadhi merely eliminate obstacles and confer worldly benefits, or does it also evoke the distant realization of supreme bodhi transcending the mundane? Answer: indeed it does. Why is this so? In the chapter on the 10 stages, Avatamsaka Sutra, for each bodhisattva stage, from the 1st through the 10th, the sutra elaborates on the augmentative practice. Says upon entering the stage, the virtues and benefits achieved upon fulfillment of the stage, and the principle of non-abiding in the path, thereby facilitating advancement to the subsequent stage. The discussion of each stage consistently concludes with, although these bodhisattvas engage in other practices, they never forsake invocation of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, nor the offering of the most sublime and splendid tributes to the 3 gems. This scriptural evidence reveals that all bodhisattvas, up to those of the higher stages, constantly cultivate invocation of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through this, they are able to accomplish balanced practices and vows, completing the vast of merit and virtue. How much more so should practitioners of the 2 vehicles and ordinary beings who aspire to be within the Pure Land Practice Buddha invocation. Why is this the case? Because Buddha invocation samadhi encompasses all aspects of the 4 samgrahas, means of embrace, and the 6 paramitas, serving as the universal approach accompanying all other practices. Question. Bodhisattvas above the initial stage have attained realization of the principle of true suchness equally with Buddhas, and are therefore termed as being born into the Buddhist family. They are capable of independently achieving Buddha and delivering sentient beings. Why then do they still have to pursue Buddha invocation samadhi and aspire to see Buddhas? Answer. True suchness is immense and boundless, equivalent to the expanse of the void, making its magnitude difficult to conceive. Picture a vast dark chamber igniting 1 or 2 lamps disperses some light. Yet the area remains dim. As more lamps are lit, the space becomes noticeably brighter. But how can this illumination compare with the brilliance of sunlight? The wisdom that bodhisattvas realize, though it progresses through stages, cannot rival the Buddha's wisdom, which shines with the radiance of the sun. The 5th Great Teaching. The 5th teaching comprises 4 sections. 1. Brief overview of variations in practice durations aimed at hastening the attainment of non-retrogression. 2. Comparison of meditative contemplation in this world with that in the Pure Land, with encouragement to pursue rebirth in the latter. 3. Contrast between the defiled environment of this world and the pure environment of the Land of Bliss, also distinguished as the flawed versus the flawless. 4. Citation of sacred teachings as evidence to inspire faith among future generations and encourage their pursuit of rebirth in the Pure Land. 1. Variations in practice durations. This section briefly outlines the variations in the durations of practice. It has 2 subsections. 1. Variations in practice durations. 2. Questions and answers. This section clarifies the variations in practice durations. Universally, sentient beings detest suffering and yearn for joy. They dread entanglement and seek liberation. To achieve supreme bodhi rapidly, awakening bodhi mind is the critical first step. This mind is difficult to recognize and activate. Even if it is initiated, scriptures indicate that 10 practices must still be pursued: faith, diligence, mindfulness, precepts, meditation, wisdom, renunciation, safeguarding the Dharma, vow formation, and merit dedication. All of these converge on the path towards Bodhi. However, one must maintain a continuous, uninterrupted physical existence, dedicated to cultivation of the path for 10,000 kalpas to achieve the stage of non-regression. Present-day sentient beings are described as fickle in faith and thought, as light as a feather. They are also referred to as bodhisattvas in name only, the assembly of uncertain enlightenment and external ordinary beings. They have yet to escape the burning house. How do we know? According to the Bodhisattva Necklace Sutra, which comprehensively delineates the stages of practice for entering the path, this understanding unfolds naturally. Thus it is called the difficult path. Moreover, even within a single kalpa, the bodily existences assumed and the births and deaths undergone are incalculable and inconceivable. How much more so across 10,000 kalpas, where one endures pain and burning needlessly. If sentient beings firmly believe in the Buddhist sutras and aspire to rebirth in the Pure Land, they will, regardless of their lifespan, instantly acquire there upon death, attaining the stage of non-retrogression. This accomplishment is equivalent to the merit of 10,000 kalpas of practice in this world. Why then did the Buddhist disciples not reflect on this? Why not forsake the difficult for the easy? The Abhidharma Kosa also elucidates the 2 types of paths, the difficult path and the easy path. Regarding the difficult path, it states to perfect a single stage, it is required that in each kalpa throughout the 3 Samkhya kalpas one must consistently maintain the reserves of merit and wisdom, fulfill the 6 paramitas, and complete all other practices. Each practice encompasses millions of difficult approaches. This defines the difficult path. As for the easy path, the text says, if there is an alternate expedient means that leads to liberation, that is called the easy path. Now, since seeking rebirth in the Land of Bliss is encouraged, all practices should be dedicated towards the same. With unwavering devotion, rebirth there at life's end is assured. Rebirth in that land embodies the ultimate purity and serenity. How could it not be deemed the easy path? Understanding this matters is an essential question. Are there sacred teachings substantiating the assertion that those who aspire to rebirth in the Pure Land will attain it when their lives end? Answer. Here are 7 examples, each providing scriptural references to corroborate the statement. 1. The longer sutra states, The Buddha told Nanda, sentient beings who wish to behold the Buddha of infinite life in their current lifetime should awaken the supreme Bodhi mind, cultivate merit and virtue, and aspire to be reborn in that land. They will then achieve rebirth. Therefore, in praise of the longer sutra says, upon hearing the virtuous name of Amitabha, rejoice, praise, revere, take refuge in the Buddha. A single recitation brings vast immense benefit, securing fully the treasure of great merit. Even if the great Chila costs more flame, one should pass through to hear the Buddha's name. Upon hearing Amitabha, there is no turning away. With almost hard reverence, I bow and pray. 2. According to the Contemplation Sutra, within the 9 levels, it is rarely stated for each level that one attains rebirth with correct mindfulness at the time of death. 3. The treatise on the awakening of faith says, enemies are instructed to contemplate true suchness as universally equal and as the singular reality. Additionally, there are bodhisattvas who have recently awakened the Bodhi mind, but whose resolve is still tender and vulnerable, convinced that they cannot regularly be in the presence of Buddhas to directly serve and make offerings that are inclined to recede in their pursuit of enlightenment. We should know that Tathagatas possess supreme, skillful means to nurture and safeguard faith, specifically through the causal condition of single-minded Buddha invocation. One can achieve rebirth as wish, perpetually behold the Buddha, and eternally depart the wretched realms. 4. The Drum Sandarani Sutra states, at that time the world will address the bhikkhus. I will expand you on the western land of peace and joy, where Buddha Amitabha currently resides. If disciples from the 4 assemblies truly embrace and uphold the name of that Buddha, fortifying their minds to continually remember and recite without forgetting, and for 10 days and nights eliminate mental distraction and confusion, and diligently, unceasingly practice Buddha invocation samadhi, they will assuredly behold Amitabha Buddha within 10 days, and will all be reborn in his realm. 5. The Daochuo Sutra states, if a person is unable to engage in invocation at the time of death, as long as that person is aware that there is a Buddha in that direction and intends to be reborn there, the individual will also achieve rebirth. 6. The Sutra on Rebirth in the 10 Directions, according to wishes, says, should someone at the time of death, or after having passed away, fall into hell, and his family members on his behalf invoke Amitabha Buddha, chant the sutras, offer alms to monastics, and perform other meritorious deeds, the person will be released from hell and reborn in a pure land. Given this, how much more certain is rebirth in a pure realm for one who personally practices invocation in the present? Therefore, the sutra states, when family members now cultivate blessings for the deceased, it is like sending provisions to a distant traveler. Surely the person will partake of them. 7. Various other sutras referenced below for substantiation. The Great Daochuo Sutra says, if good men and women constantly concentrate their minds on reciting the names of Buddhas, then all Buddhas in the 10 directions, along with all sages and saints, will perpetually perceive these persons as though they are present right before their eyes. For this reason, the sutra said the Great Daochuo, you should know that these persons will be reborn in the pure lands of the 10 directions in accordance with their wishes. Moreover, the Great Compassion Sutra states, what is defined as great compassion? Those who exclusively recite the Buddha's name continuously without interruption are assured of rebirth in the land of peace and joy at the end of their lives. If they further inspire others to do so, you should know they are invariably termed practitioners of great compassion. Therefore, the Nirvana Sutra states, the Buddha told the great king, even if you were to open a vast treasury and give away its riches to all beings for 1 month, the merit gain will not compare to that accrued from uttering the Buddha's name just once. The latter surpasses the former by an extent that is beyond measure. Furthermore, the numerical Agama Sutra states, the Buddha asked Ananda, if the sentient being offers clothing, food, beverages, bedding, and medicine to all the inhabitants of Jambudvipa, would the merit gain be considerable? Ananda responded with a louder one. Indeed, it would be substantial beyond any measure. The Buddha then told Ananda, if a sentient being with a consistently virtuous mind recites the Buddha's name once, even for the brief duration of milking a cow once, the merit accrued would surpass the former to an extent that is beyond measure, and there is no one capable of measuring it. The Mahasutra states, if a person recites the Buddha's name with a distracted mind, the blessings gained will be inexhaustible, persisting beyond the cessation of the person's suffering. If a person recites the Buddha's name while scattering flowers, the blessings gained will also be inexhaustible, persisting beyond the cessation of the person's suffering. We therefore realize that the benefits of Buddha invocation are immense and unfathomable. The 10 Rebirth Sutra and other Mahayana scriptures all provide textual evidence, though it is not feasible to cite them exhaustively. 2. Difficulty or ease of meditative contemplation. This section compares the meditative contemplation in this world with that in the Pure Land, and encourages pursuit of rebirth in the latter. This world is marked by its defiled environment, which indicates chaotic thoughts and impedes entry into meditation. Even if one achieves samadhi through practice, it remains confined to the phenomenal aspect, often tainted by attachment to the meditative flavor. Moreover, this samadhi can only suppress, not eradicate, negative karma, leading to rebirth in a higher celestial realm as a karmic reward. Upon conclusion of that existence, retrogression is likely. Therefore, the treatise on the perfection of wisdom says, erudition, precepts, and dhyana, without attaining flawless dharma, though they possess merit and virtue, their reliability remains an issue. If the practice of meditation is oriented towards the Western Pure Land, where phenomena and the environment radiate with purity, accomplishing meditative contemplation becomes easier. This path clears numerous kalpas of negative karma, ensures perpetual meditative concentration and rapid progression, and embodies ultimate purity and serenity as expansively explained in the longer sutra. Question: the Western Pure Land can be invoked in meditation because of the realm's supremacy. Does this imply that the celestial domain of form, being inferior, cannot be elicited by meditative practice? Answer: the causal practices of meditative concentration apply universally to both this world and the Pure Land. However, the Pure Land exists in the stage of non-retrogression and is supported by other power. Thus, it is described as supreme. In this world, even if samadhi is achieved through meditation, such practice relies solely on self-effort and lacks the Buddha's embrace. Upon the depletion of positive karma, retrogression is inevitable, rendering it inferior by comparison. 3. Purity or impurity of the two realms. This section discusses the defiled environments of this world and the pure environment of the land of bliss, also known as the flawed versus the flawless. The environment in this world includes the three wretched realms: mountains and pits, mountains and ravines, deserts and salt flats, thorny underbrush, floods and droughts, violent storms, harmful encounters, thunder and lightning, tigers and wolves, poisonous animals, malicious thieves, wicked people, chaos, disintegration, the three disasters, and ruin. In terms of the direct retribution, karmic effects on inhabitants' bodies and minds, there are the three poisons, the 8 inverted views: sorrow, jealousy, frequent illnesses, short lifespans, hunger and thirst, cold and heat, and constant pursuit by malevolent spirits governing fate. The profound impurity and detestability of these conditions are beyond complete description. Thus, this realm is referred to as flawless, inspiring deep repugnance. The superiority of being reborn in the Pure Land is described in the longer sutra. Humans and celestial beings from the 10 directions who are reborn in that land invariably receive myriad benefits. What are these? Once reborn in that land, their steps are cushioned by golden lotuses, and their seats are jeweled thrones that support their bodies. Departing, Sakra leads the way, returning, Brahman follows behind. All sacred beings become their kin and friends. Amitabha Buddha is their esteemed teacher. Beneath jewel trees and amid precious forests, they freely soar at will. In the pond of the 8 meritorious virtues, they bathe and refresh both the spirit and form. Their bodies glow with a golden hue, and their lifespans are as enduring as the Buddha's own. In pursuit of learning, they simultaneously advance all along Dharma paths. In serenity, they embrace the two truths in harmonious interpenetration and unobstructed unity. When assisting beings of the 10 directions, they wield great supernatural powers. In moments of tranquil repose, they reside within the 3 voids. On their journeys, they follow the Noble Eightfold Path. Upon achieving their ultimate goal, they attain the great nirvana. All sentient beings, upon reaching that land, will realize those benefits. Why not reflect upon this? Why delay making the journey? For citation of evidence to encourage faith. This section cites the sacred teachings as evidence to awaken faith in future generations and urge them to seek rebirth in the Pure Land. The Sutra on Buddha Contemplation Samadhi states, at that time within the assembly, Buddhas from the 10 directions manifested in the air, each seated cross-legged on a lotus pedestal. Leading them was Tathagata, good virtue of the East, who addressed the assembly. You should know, as I recall, countless lifetimes ago, there was a Buddha named Supreme King of Treasure Magic Virtue. When he appeared in the world, he also taught the three vehicles, just as they are today. After the parinirvana of that Buddha in the age of Dharma decline, a bhikkhu and his 9 disciples went to a pagoda to pay homage to Buddha statues. There they saw a majestic, awe-inspiring statue. After reverently observing it, they prostrated themselves and looked upon it with deep attention, each uttering a verse in its praise. As time progressed, they departed this life according to their individual lifespans, whether long or short. Following their demise, they were immediately reborn before a Buddha. They thenceforth encountered innumerable Buddhas. In the presence of these Buddhas, they extensively pursued monastic practices and attained ocean-like Buddha invocation samadhi. All Buddhas thereafter manifested before them, conferring prophecies of their eventual Buddhahood. Subsequently, they each became a Buddha in one of the 10 directions as wished. The good virtue Buddha of the East was none other than myself. The Buddhas from the remaining 9 directions were my 9 former disciples. These world-honored ones from the 10 directions each achieved Buddhahood by venerating the pagoda and reciting a verse in praise. Could they be anyone else? No, they are us, the Buddhas from the 10 directions. At that time, the Buddhas from the 10 directions descended from the sky, each emanating thousands of rays of light and manifesting their physical forms with the radiant white tufts of hair between their eyebrows. They each took a seat upon Shakyamuni Buddha's divan and addressed Ananda. You are aware that Shakyamuni Buddha, through immeasurable diligence and countless ascetic practices, pursued Buddha wisdom, thereby attained this Buddha form as his reward. We have now conveyed this teaching to you. Uphold the Buddhist teaching, and for future generations of devas, dragons, and the 4 assemblies of disciples, explicate this teaching of contemplating the physical marks and characteristics of Buddhas and practicing Buddha invocation samadhi. Having spoken these words, they paid homage to Shakyamuni Buddha. They returned to their respective realms upon conclusion of their salutations. The 6th great teaching. 1. Comparison of the Pure Land with all the pure realms in the 10 directions. 2. Inference from doctrinal principles. 3. Exposition on the persistence and disappearance of sutras. 1. Comparing the Western Pure Land with other pure realms. This section compares the Pure Land with other pure realms in the 10 directions. It comprises 3 subsections. 1. The Sutra on Rebirth according to Wishes says, Buddha realms throughout the 10 directions are pure and splendid, and rebirth there can be attained as wished. However, none compared to the Pure Land of infinite life in the West. Why is this? Because Amitabha Buddha and Avalokita and Bodhisattvas of Avalokiteshvara and Mahasamaprapta first awakened their Bodhi mind in the Saha world, establishing an exceptional karmic connection with its beings. Hence, Shakyamuni Buddha consistently praised and advocated rebirth in that land. 2. According to the longer sutra, during his phase of causal practices, Bodhisattva Dharmakara made grand vows in the presence of Lokeshvara Raja Buddha, aiming to incorporate the splendors of pure realms. At that time, Lokeshvara Raja Buddha expounded on 21 billion Buddha lands, detailing the virtues and shortcomings of their celestial and human inhabitants, as well as the various levels of sophistication and coarseness of these realms. All these details were fully revealed to him. Bodhisattva Dharmakara then resolved to attain Buddhahood in the western direction, and now resides in his Pure Land in the west. This serves as a second proof. 3. According to the Contemplation Sutra, Queen Videhi also inquired about Pure Lands. In response to Tathagata Shakyamuni, displayed all the pure realms of the 10 directions upon a radiant platform. Above his head, Queen Videhi addressed the Buddha. Although all these Buddha lands are pure and luminous, I am now willing to be reborn in the land of bliss of Amitabha Buddha. This constitutes the third proof. We therefore know that among all the pure lands, the land of peace and joy is supreme. 2. Inference from doctrinal principles. This section makes assessments from doctrinal principles. Question: why is it necessary to face west when sitting, bowing, reciting, and contemplating? Answer: as it pertains to Jambhavipa, the direction of sunrise symbolizes birth, while the direction of sunset represents death. Aligning with the point of death, the direction into which the spiritual consciousness of the departed enters facilitates access to Amitabha's deliverance. For this reason, Bodhisattva Dharmakara vowed out of compassion to attain Buddhahood in the West to welcome sentient beings. Facing the Buddha while sitting, contemplating, bowing, and reciting accommodates worldly customs of reverence. Sacred beings who have attained the reward of freedom to fly unrestrained may find the distinction of directions irrelevant. For ordinary people, those whose minds and bodies are inseparably linked, facing any direction other than the West undoubtedly complicates their journey towards the Western Pure Land. Therefore, the treatise on the perfection of wisdom notes, there was a bhikkhu who dedicated his life to chanting the Amitabha Sutra and reciting Prajnaparamita. As he neared the end of his life, he informed his disciples, Amitabha Buddha and the sacred assembly are before me. Joining his palms to take refuge, he soon passed away. The disciple cremated his body according to the cremation rites. While his entire body was reduced to ashes, his tongue alone remained intact, unchanged from its original condition. They collected it and constructed a stupa to enshrine and venerate it. Bodhisattva Nagarjuna explains, due to his chanting of the Amitabha Sutra, he was personally welcomed by the Buddha at the moment of death. Because he recited Prajnaparamita, his tongue remained indestructible. With this scriptural evidence, we realize that all practices when dedicated towards the Western Pure Land invariably lead to rebirth there. Therefore, the 4 quarters of Sumer Sutra states, at the time when heaven and earth first separated, there were neither sun, moon, nor stars. Even when celestial beings descended, they used only their halos for light. During that period, the human population endured severe hardships. Amitabha Buddha then dispatched 2 bodhisattvas named Precious Responsive Voice and Precious Auspiciousness, who are Fuji and Nuwa, respectively. After consulting together, the bodhisattvas visited the 7th Brahma heaven to acquire the 7 treasures. Bringing them to this realm, they fashioned the sun, moon, stars, and the 28 lunar mansions, illuminating the sky and the earth. They also established the 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. At that time, the bodhisattva remarked between them, the sun, moon, stars, and the 28 lunar mansions move westward because all celestial and human beings bow in reverence to Amitabha Buddha. Thus, out of devotion, these celestial bodies gravitate towards the Pure Land, resulting in their westward trajectory. 3. The persistence and disappearance of sutras. This section explains the persistence and cessation of sutras. The Dharma dispensation of Shakyamuni Buddha unfolds in 3 phases. 500 years of correct Dharma, 1,000 years of semblance Dharma, and 10,000 years of Dharma decline. As sentient beings die out thoroughly, all sutras will perish. However, out of compassion for beings suffering from pains and burnings, the Tathagata will specially preserve this sutra, the longer sutra, for an additional 100 years. With this scriptural evidence, we understand that although that land is a pure realm in substance, its substance encompasses the highest through to the lowest. Those who recognize that phenomenal characteristics have no inherent form will attain rebirth at the upper level. Ordinary beings caught in the burning house always depend on phenomenal characteristics to achieve rebirth there. The 7th Great Teaching. The 7th teaching comprises 2 sections. 1. Adoption of phenomenal characteristics of this world and of the Pure Land, resulting in bondage versus liberation. 2. Efforts of cultivation in this world and in the Pure Land, differentiating genuine from illusory rewards, and advocating rebirth in the Pure Land. 1. Phenomenal characteristics in the two realms. This section delineates the differences between bondage and liberation, relating to adoption of the phenomenal characteristics of this world versus those of the Pure Land. One, phenomenal characteristics in the two realms. This section delineates the differences between bondage and liberation, relating to adoption of the phenomenal characteristics of this world versus those of the Pure Land. By embracing the pristine characteristics of the Pure Land, one quickly attains liberation, experiencing supreme bliss. The wisdom eye becomes unobstructed and luminous. Conversely, adopting the impure characteristics of this world leads only to illusory happiness, ignorance, and blindness, adversity and entanglement, anxiety and fear. Anxiety and fear. Anxiety and fear. Question. Mahayana Sutras consistently teach that achieving detachment from phenomenal characteristics is essential to transcending worldly fetters. Attachment to such characteristics lead inevitably to bondage and obstruction. Now sentient beings are encouraged to renounce the impurities of this world and aspire to the purity of the Pure Land. How should such guidance be interpreted? Answer. The two principles are completely different. Why? There exist two kinds of phenomenal characteristics. 1. In the realm of the five dusts and sensual desires, deluded attachments and covetous passions emerge, compelling one to cling to the perceived environment. These physical characteristics are identified as bondage. 2. Affection for the virtues of Buddhas and the resultant aspiration to rebirth in the Pure Land, though categorized as phenomenal characteristics, are acknowledged as liberation. How do we know? The Sutra of the 10 Stages explains, Bodhisattvas at the first stage still contemplate the two truths separately. Through mental exertion and intention formation, they initially rely on phenomenal characteristics in their pursuit and eventually attain non-attachment to characteristics. This is a gradual process that culminates in the realization of great Bodhi. The inclination to pursue phenomenal characteristics dissolves only after reaching the ultimate mindset by the 7th stage. Upon entering the 8th stage, they completely transcend the pursuit of phenomenal characteristics, and only then it is rightly called the effortless stage. Therefore, the treatise on the aforementioned Sutra of the 10 stages declares, up to and including the 7th stage, unwholesome craving constitutes an obstacle, while wholesome craving serves as a cure. From the 8th stage onwards, wholesome craving itself becomes the obstacle, and the eradication of all craving serves as the cure. As for those currently aspiring to rebirth in the Pure Land, identified as outer ordinary beings, the virtuous roots they cultivate stem entirely from their affection for the Buddha's merits and virtues. How can this be regarded as bondage? Moreover, the Nirvana Sutra states all beings possess two types of affection. One is wholesome affection and the other unwholesome affection. Unwholesome affection is pursued only by the ignorant where his affection for wholesome Dharma is sought by bodhisattvas. Thus, the Pure Land Treatise, commentary on the Treatise on Rebirth in the Pure Land, says, flavors of contemplating the purity of the Buddha land, of the Mahayana in embracing and delivering sentient beings, of Bodhisattva's practices of imitating Amitabha's feats by vowing to establish Pure Lands, and of Amitabha's ultimate substantive sustenance and support. There are countless flavors of the Buddha path such as these. Hence, although these characteristics are embraced, such embrace does not constitute an attachment that binds. Furthermore, the characteristics ascribed to the Pure Land are indeed those of a flawless nature and pertain to ultimate reality. 2. Cultivation in the two realms. This section compares the rigor and ease of cultivation efforts in this world and in the Pure Land. It also differentiates real from false rewards. Those who aspire to be reborn in the West Pure Land need only dedicate brief periods to prostration, contemplation, and recitation. At the moment of death, regardless of their lifespan, they will be welcomed by Amitabha's radiant lotus throne and swiftly advance to the Pure Land, achieving the stage of non-retrogression. So the longer sutra states, should celestial and human beings from the 10 directions reborn in my land not ultimately accomplish nirvana, or should any of them retrogress, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. In this world, those who comprehensively cultivate generosity, precepts, forbearance, diligence, meditation, and wisdom for extended periods, yet for less than 10,000 kalpas, consistently fail to escape the burning house. They remain in perversion and descent. Thus, this path requires extremely arduous effort, but yields only illusory rewards. The longer sutra also declares, those reborn in my land will quickly cut off the cycle of rebirth in the 5 wretched realms. This indicates that, in contrast to Amitabha's Pure Land, all 5-6 realms of the Saha world are considered wretched realms. These include the realms of hell, hungry ghosts, and animals, which result exclusively from negative karma and are therefore identified as wretched realms. Even the human and celestial domains of the Saha world, characterized by mixed karma, are categorized as wretched. In this world, practitioners aiming to quell vexations and extinguish negative karma must first eliminate the delusion of views, distancing themselves from the causes leading to the 3 wretched realms, and nullifying the consequences of such descents. Subsequently, they must dispel the delusion of thoughts, steering clear of the causes for rebirth in the human and celestial realms, and conclusively ending such rebirths. These stages represent a gradual eradication, not a quick cutoff. By attaining rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land, one is instantaneously forsakes the entirety of the 5 realms of the Saha world, a process described as quick cutoff. The phrase, quickly cutting off the 5 wretched realms, relates to severing karmic consequences, while the line the wretched realms will close as a matter of course signifies the cessation of karmic causes. These expressions clarify what is to be abandoned as a result of rebirth. This path of ascension is limitless, highlights the achievement to be realized. Those who set their resolve and earnestly aspire towards the West, from up to a lifetime's recitation to just 10 recitations, will unfailingly attain rebirth in the Pure Land. Upon reaching that realm, they immediately join the assembly of assured enlightenment, an accomplishment equivalent to the fruition of practicing for 10,000 kalpas in the Saha world. The 8th Great Teaching. The 8th teaching comprises 3 sections. 1. Brief enumeration of various scriptures as evidence, advocating renunciation of this world and aspiration to the Pure Land. 2. Comparison of Amitabha Buddha and Shakyamuni Buddha. 3. Explanation of the significance of rebirth. 1. Sutras advocating rebirth in the Pure Land. This section briefly enumerates various Mahayana sutras as evidence advocating renunciation of this world and aspiration to the Pure Land. 1. The Longer Sutra, consisting of 2 fascicles, taught at Mount Grijakuta, Vulture Peak. 2. The Contemplation Sutra, a single fascicle, especially presented at 2 gatherings, in the Royal Palace, Rajagir, and at Mount Grijakuta. 3. The shorter version of the Infinite Life Sutra, i.e. Amitabha Sutra, delivered at one assembly in Shravasti. 4. Sutra on Rebirth in the 10 Directions according to wishes, offering clear evidences. 5. Sutra of Infinite Pure Enlightenment, comprising 2 fascicles, expounded especially in one assembly. 6. 10 Rebirth Sutra, 1 fascicle. Numerous other Mahayana sutras and commentaries abound, with passages that commend the Pure Land and guide people towards it. Examples include the Sutra on Invocation, of Avalokiteshvara and the Mahasutra, among others, as well as treatises by luminaries like Nagarjuna and Vasubandhu, all replete with expressions of admiration and encouragement. This level of emphatic urging is unparalleled in discussions of other Pure Lands. 2. Comparison of the 2 Buddhas. This section compares Amitabha Buddha and Shakyamuni Buddha. Tathagata Shakyamuni, the Buddha of this realm, dwelt in the world for 80 years. His presence was fleeting, and upon his departure he did not return. In the time scales of various heavens, such as Shrishrimsa, his stay on earth was less than a day. Moreover, during the lifetime of Shakyamuni Buddha, the causal conditions for his deliverance of sentient beings were limited, as exemplified by his rescue of people during an epidemic in Vaisali. What happened? The residents of Vaisali were stricken with 5 severe ailments: eyes reddened to the color of blood, ears discharging pus, noses bleeding, tongue stiffened into silence, food consumed turning rough and astringent to the taste. As a result, their sixth perception consciousness was obstructed, leaving them as though inebriated. There were 5 Yakshas, also named Krishna Kala, whose faces were as dark as ink, and who had 5 eyes each. Their protruding fangs drained humans of their vital essence. Jivaka, an eminent physician, exhausted his medical expertise and skills, but failed to cure the afflicted. Eventually, an elder named Somachatra, leading a group of the ill, sought refuge with the Buddha. They prostrated themselves and pleaded for mercy. Moved by boundless compassion, the world honored one addressed the ailing. To the west reside Amitabha Buddha and Bodhisattvas of Avalokiteshvara and Mahastamaprapta. You should wholeheartedly join your palms to behold them. Following the Buddha's guidance, the assembly pressed their palms together in earnest supplication. At that moment, Amitabha Buddha emitted a brilliant radiance, and Avalokiteshvara and Mahastamaprapta arrived simultaneously, uttering a powerful mantra. All illnesses and suffering completely vanished, and the afflicted were restored to their original state of well-being. Indeed, the supernatural powers of the 2 Buddhas are equally matched. However, Shakyamuni Buddha does not display his own capabilities. Instead, he deliberately highlighted those of Amitabha Buddha with the aim of guiding all sentient beings to aspire to the Pure Land. Therefore, Shakyamuni Buddha persistently praises and encourages rebirth in that realm. It is crucial to understand this point. Hence, Master Tanluan earnestly resolves to seek rebirth in the West. Accordingly, in alignment with the Longer Sutra, he offers his praise, saying, Shravakas and Bodhisattvas in the Pure Land dwell. With humans and the celestials, their wisdom does excel. All share features splendid with no difference to see, named thus for other realms in their diversity, in complexions divine, none can compare, neither human nor deva, their forms fine and fair, bodies ethereal, boundless in extent, to this universal power my respects are sent. 3. The significance of rebirth. This section explains the significance of rebirth in the Pure Land, comprising 2 subsections. 1. Explanation of the significance of rebirth. 2. Questions and answers. Question. I aspire to rebirth in the Pure Land, but I am uncertain about its purpose. Answer. The sole purpose is quickly to achieve both self-benefit and the benefit of others, offering profound and extensive advantages to sentient beings. Self-benefits. Achieving the stages of the 10 faiths in 3 stages, embracing and upholding the correct Dharma, grasping non-duality, witnessing and realizing Buddha nature, clearly perceiving ultimate reality, observing with an enlightened mind the true truths of existence and non-existence, as well as the sequential order of cause and effect, distinguishing between superiority and inferiority within the 10 bodhisattva stages, attaining the 3 endurances and the 3 paths, achieving the unhindered Vajra Samadhi stage, realizing the great nirvana, benefits for others, following the Mahayana path for extensive deliverance of sentient beings, wishing to dwell indefinitely in the Dharma realm, aiming to exhaust the boundless sea of samsara. The following question will be addressed from 3 perspectives. Question. If the aspiration to rebirth in the Pure Land is aimed at benefiting sentient beings, then the beings in need of deliverance are right here in this world. Those who have developed such resolve should remain here to alleviate the suffering of these beings. Why then, after awakening this resolve, does one first aspire to be reborn in the Pure Land? This seems akin to forsaking sentient beings in pursuit of the personal bliss of enlightenment. Answer. This reasoning is unsuitable. Why? 1. As the treatise on the perfection of wisdom says, imagine 2 persons witnessing their parents and relatives drowning in a deep abyss. One person immediately proceeds, exerting all his strength to save them. However, his capabilities prove insufficient, and he is drowning alongside them. The other person, instead, runs to find a boat, with which he returns to rescue everyone, bringing them all out of danger. Bodhisattvas are similar. Before the initiation of the Bodhi mind, they drift in the cycle of birth and death, no different from other sentient beings. Once the Bodhi mind is awakened, they first aspire to be reborn in the Pure Land, aiming to acquire the boat of great compassion. Equipped with a vessel of unimpeded eloquence, they enter the sea of samsara to deliver sentient beings. Further, the great treatise states, when a bodhisattva is reborn in the Pure Land, he is endowed with great supernatural powers and unimpeded eloquence. However, even when he teaches sentient beings, he cannot always ensure that they cultivate virtue, eliminate vice, advance on their paths, and progress in their stages to the satisfaction of the bodhisattvas. If he were to try to help others by remaining in the defiled land, he would lack those benefits entirely. The situation is like forcing a chicken into water. How can it avoid getting wet? 3. In praise of the Longer Sutra says, Bodhisattvas in peace enjoy the land of Amitabha. All follow their wisdom in expounding the Dharma in themselves and things,
They perceive no eye or mind, pure as lotuses, unstained by worldly grime. They come and go, move and stay, like rowing afloat, benefiting sentient beings without bias they devote. Self and others seen as void, duality they eradicate, wisdom torch brightly lit, long nights they illuminate. Possessed of the three insights and six powers complete, through their mind's eye perceiving bodhisattva's deeds, such virtues vest and ballast extensively unfold. Sincerely I yearn for rebirth in that sacred abode. The ninth grade teaching. The ninth teaching comprises two sections. 1. Contrast between suffering and happiness, good and evil. 2. Comparison of the lifespan in this world with that in the Pure Land. 1. Suffering and happiness in the two lands. This section contains two subsections. 1. Contrast between suffering and happiness, good and evil. 2. Citations from the longer sutra as supporting evidences. The first subsection discusses the contrast between suffering and happiness, good and evil, as observed in the two realms. In the Saha world, karmic consequences manifest as either joy or distress. However, happiness is scarce and suffering is abundant. Severe agonies are the pains and burnings in the three wretched realms, whereas lesser forms include wars and illnesses among humans and celestial beings. Such adversities persist unceasingly, one following another, spanning countless kalpas without interruption. Even the slight happiness experienced in human and celestial realms is transient, akin to bubbles or flashes of lightning, appearing quickly and vanishing just as rapidly. Therefore, this world is recognized as a realm of suffering and evil. In Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land, waters, birds, and forests constantly emit the sounds of the Dharma, clearly proclaiming the teachings of the path. These sounds, in their pure unblemished form, enable beings to attain enlightenment. The second subsection references the sacred teachings as corroborating evidence. The treatise on the Pure Land asserts, human and celestial beings from the 10 directions, upon being reborn in the Pure Land, are no different from pure mind bodhisattvas. Pure mind bodhisattvas, along with bodhisattvas of higher stages, will ultimately attain the endurance of tranquil extinction and will never retrogress. The following citation from the Longer Sutra pertains to the 48 vows, highlighting 5 significant benefits. The Longer Sutra states, 1. If celestial and human beings born in my land should not all be in the hue of genuine gold, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. 2. If celestial and human beings born in my land should not have any difference between beautiful and ugly in physique or countenance, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. 3. If celestial and human beings born in my land should not attain intelligence of remembering their previous lives, or at least should not know the events of 100,000 Koti Kalpas, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. 4. If celestial and human beings born in my land should not acquire clairaudience, or at least should not hear the teachings of 100,000 Koti to Buddhas, or should not accept and uphold all these teachings, may not attain perfect enlightenment. 5. If celestial and human beings born on my land should not possess telepathy, or at least should not know the thoughts of sending beings in 100,000 Koti to Buddha lands, may not attain perfect enlightenment. Specifying all the benefits of that land is a formidable task. Simply aspiring to be reborn there ensures infallible outcomes. Therefore, that realm is characterized solely by virtue and happiness, entirely free from suffering and evil. 2. Lifespans in this world and in the Pure Land. This section compares the lifespans in the two realms. In this world, human lifespans rarely extend beyond 100 years, Around such a century, few live longer, while many die sooner. Some perish in their year of birth or during childhood. Others are even harmed or aborted in the womb. What is the reason for this? The complex and varied karmic causes created by sentient beings result in diverse and unequal karmic consequences. Therefore, the Nirvana Sutra states, creating black, non-virtuous karma results in black retribution. Creating white, virtuous karma results in white repercussions. The same principle applies to pure and impure karma. Moreover, according to the Sutra of Pure Deliverance by Bodhisattvas, human life spans 100 years, but knights claim half, reducing it by 50. Of the remaining 50 years, the first 15 are spent without discerning good from evil. Beyond 80, one contends with senility and frailty, enduring the pains of aging. This leaves merely 15 years. During this period, external pressures such as obligations to sovereigns, distant military deployments, or confinement in prison may arise. Internally, one confronts the fortunes and misfortunes of the household, entanglements in miscellaneous matters, and feelings of loneliness, fear, and constant dissatisfaction. Given this calculation, how much time remains for cultivating the path? Upon such reflection, how could one not feel sorrow? Why would one not grow weary? The Sutra further proclaims, once born into this world, the person generates 840 million thoughts throughout each day and night. A single malevolent thought condemns one to a lifetime in a wretched bodily form. Though 10 such thoughts result in 10 lifetimes, 100 malevolent thoughts lead to 100 lifetimes in such wretched forms. When considered over a lifespan of being who continually harbors malevolent thoughts for approximately 100 years, will be consigned to wretched realm forms that pervade the entire 3,000-fold chiliocosm. Just as this is true for negative dharmas, the principle equally applies to positive ones. A single virtuous thought results in one lifetime of auspicious bodily form. 100 virtuous thoughts yields 100 lifetimes in such forms. In consideration of the entire lifespan, a being who maintains benevolent thoughts for about 100 years will obtain virtuous forms that similarly fill up the 3,000-fold chiliocosm. Fill the 3,000-fold chiliocosm. By reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha for 10, 5, or many years, one will subsequently be reborn in the land of infinite life, attaining the pure realm of Dharma body, which is as boundless as the grains of sand in the Ganges and beyond comprehension. Given the transient nature of existence in this defiled world, each person's rewarded lifetime never extends far. Upon rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land, the lifespan will be of unfathomably long duration. Therefore, the Infinite Life Sutra, the shortest sutra, Amitabha Sutra, states, the Buddha Sariputra. Why is that Buddha called Amitabha? Sariputra, the human and celestial beings from the 10 directions who are reborn in that land have lifespans lasting billions and thousands of kalpas, equal to that of the Buddha. This is why the Buddha is named Amitabha. Everyone should consider this vast benefit and aspire to be reborn there. Further, the respectable Sutra on Emperor Good King states, suppose there is someone practicing the path who aspires to be reborn in the western land of Amitabha Buddha and engages in continual recollection and recitation day and night for 1 to 7 days. Even if this person harbors thoughts of regret during this time, but then learns of the merits and virtues of the good king, as I've described at the end of his life, 8 bodhisattvas will fly over to escort him to the land of ultimate bliss. Escort him to the land of Amitabha Buddha in the west. His rebirth there will proceed unhindered under any circumstances. Below is additional evidence from the Gatha on the Longer Sutra. The verse of praise states, in the land of peace and joy, beings are reborn with 32 marks, their bodies to adorn, their wisdom perfected into deep dharma. They enter, grasping the way's essence, free from every barrier. Capabilities sharp or dull, each gains endurance. From the three types to countless, beyond utterance, fate knowing, and for others, power is freely directed, till Buddhahood, never to fall into realms mixed and wretched. Except when reborn in realms of five turbidities, they appear like Shakyamuni, great personalities. Rebirth in peace and joy offer boundless returns. Thus, for them, sincerity for that rebirth they yearn. The 10th Great Teaching. The 10th teaching comprises two sections. 1. Citation of similar cases from the Longer Sutra as evidence to substantiate the argument. 2. Explanation of the significance of merit dedication. 1. Cases of aspirants from the 10 directions. This section cites similar cases from the Longer Sutra as evidence to substantiate the argument. Buddhas of the 10 directions uniformly encourage seeking rebirth in the Western Pure Land. Bodhisattvas from the 10 directions are born there together. Human and celestial beings of the 10 directions all aim to return there. We thus know rebirth in that land is unfathomable. Therefore, in praise of the Longer Sutra states, infinite in divine power is Buddha Amitabha, praised from 10 directions by countless Tathagatas. From eastern Buddha realms, innumerable is Ganges sand. A myriad bodhisattvas come to worship in his land. Also in that blissful abode they present their offerings to bodhisattvas and Shravakas amid their gatherings. Hearing Dharma Sutras, the teachings they proclaim, in the 9 other directions, bodhisattvas do the same. 2. Significance of merit dedication. This section explains the meaning of merit dedication. Since all sentient beings have Buddha nature, everyone possesses the will to achieve Buddha. However, if we rely solely on the merit accumulated through our practice, and if this practice period does not reach 10,000 kalpas, we remain trapped in the burning domain of samsara, unable to break free of reincarnation. Thus, from compassion for such prolonged suffering, the great sage advises dedicating merit toward rebirth in the Western Pure Land, thereby attaining profound benefits. The function of merit dedication does not exceed the 6 types. What are the 6? 1. Dedicating all positive karma from practice toward Amitabha. Upon reaching his realm, one gains the 6 supernatural powers, enabling the deliverance of sentient beings. This is termed Nirvani Nirvana. 2. Dedicating causes towards fruition. 3. Dedicating the lesser practices toward the supreme merits. 4. Dedicating the slower progress to the quicker attainment. This is known as not abiding in the mutual world. 5. Dedicating merit to sentient beings. Compassionately intending to encourage their turn towards virtue. 6. Dedicating merit back to oneself, aimed at dispelling discriminative thinking. These 6 aspects constitute the function of merit dedication. Therefore, the Longer Sutra declares, sentient beings born into my land naturally advance, transcending the ordinary sequence of bodhisattva practice stages. They are bound to attain Buddhahood eternally free from the risk of retribution, and in praise of the Longer Sutra articulates, bodhisattvas and Shravakas, in the land of joy and peace, none in this world their superiority one sees. Shakyamuni, with great unobstructed eloquence, through analogies tells but a bit of their brilliance. To the lowliest beggar, an emperor is compared. Then emperor to Chakravartin distinctions declared, ascending through realms to the sphere of sixth heaven, all akin to the first pair in progressive comparison. Devas measured against beings in the land of bliss, quadrillion times lesser, the contrast beyond this. All by Dharmakara's vows, these wonders are born. To the vast power of Amitabha's mind, my reverence is sworn. The 11th Great Teaching. The 11th teaching comprises 2 sections briefly. 1. Exhortation to all sentient beings to rely on Dharma mentors and aspire to rebirth in the West. 2. Discussion of the superiority or inferiority of conditions for rebirth after death. 1. Exhortation to rely on Dharma mentors. This section urges reliance on Dharma mentors. In the Dharma Verse Sutra, the role of Dharma guides for sentient beings is explored. Treasured brightness. Bodhisattva asked the Buddha, will allow no one will qualify as one as a Dharma mentor. The Buddha replied, Dharma mentors are those capable of expanding the profound teachings such as emptiness, formlessness, and desirelessness, and the universal equality of all phenomena, the absence of karma and retribution, the non-existence of cause and effect, the ultimate suchness and abidance in the sphere of ultimate reality. However, within the realm beyond extreme emptiness, there are only established all phenomena. This is what defines a Dharma mentor. Dharma mentors are your parents nurturing your Bodhi body. They are your eyes discerning all paths of good and evil. Dharma mentors are your great ship carrying you across the sea of birth and death. They are your strong rope rescuing you from the cycle of transmigration. The sutra further advises that those serving as Dharma mentors to sentient beings must seek rebirth in the Western Pure Land. Why? Because, dwelling in this burning world, they face myriad conditions, both supportive and discouraging, that often lead to retrogression and submersion. As a result, liberation becomes hard to achieve. For this reason, Sariputra, having resolved to pursue the Bodhisattva path in this world for 60 kalpas, immediately retrogressed upon encountering a malevolent acquaintance who begged for his eyes. This incident illustrates the extreme difficulty of cultivating the path in this burning realm, hence the exhortation to seek rebirth in the Western Pure Land. Upon arrival there, the 3 learnings naturally progress, and all virtuous practices are fully perfected. Therefore, the longer sutra declares, in the Pure Land of Amitabha there is not even a speck of space as minuscule as a hair for committing evil. 2. Superiority or inferiority of rebirth after death. This section delineates the superiority or inferiority of beings' rebirth after death. Upon reaching the end of their lives in this realm, all sentient beings are inevitably propelled by their positive and negative karma. They are perpetually driven into reincarnation by the lords of fate, their jailers, delusional attachments, and afflictions. Over countless kalpas, they've never been able to escape. If they develop faith and direct their aspiration towards the Pure Lands, exercising resolute intention, and concentrated diligence, then upon life's conclusion, Amitabha Buddha, accompanied by Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, and the sacred assembly will welcome them with the radiant lotus throne. Filled with joy, practitioner follows, palms joined, and ascends the throne. In an instant he reaches the Pure Land, where he is immersed in bliss until he attains Buddhahood. Moreover, all sentient beings create diverse karma, which falls into 3 categories: superior, intermediate, and inferior. Regardless, they are all destined for King Yama's judgment. However, those who believe in the karmic conditions of deliverance by Amitabha Buddha aspire to rebirth in the Pure Land and dedicate all the merit from their practices towards the same will be personally welcomed by Amitabha Buddha at the end of their lives. Such people will bypass King Yama altogether. The 12th Great Teaching. The 12th teaching consists of a single section which references the 10 Rebirth Sutras, proof advocating rebirth in the Pure Land. As the Buddhist Shakyamuni teaches about rebirth in the land of Amitabha Buddha, he instructs the multitudes to practice body contemplation with correct mindfulness as a path to liberation. The 10 Rebirth Sutra states, Ananda addressed the Buddha. World One, for all sentient beings, what is the method of Buddha contemplation? Please kindly expound upon this. The Buddha answered Ananda, in the practice of body contemplation, do not focus on direction, east, west, north, south, the four intercardinals above or below, or on the void. It's not about observing external or internal conditions, the body's form, the oral aspects of form, or the visual manifestations of form. Instead, contemplate non-condition alone. This constitutes the correct and genuine approach to body contemplation. Beyond this method, no matter how diligently one searches in the 10 directions, everywhere there exists no alternative means to liberation. The Buddha further told Nanda, simply through practicing body contemplation, virtuous power naturally strengthens, correct mindfulness naturally arises, and liberation naturally unfolds. Why is this? Consider someone who, through diligent and sincere effort, attains true liberation. For this person, even without deliberately seeking liberation, liberation comes on its own. Ananda again addressed the Buddha, World One. If sentient beings in the world attain liberation through such correct mindfulness, then the 3 wretched realms of hell, beings, hungry ghosts, and animals, shall not exist. The Buddha responded, what is the reason for the failure of sentient beings in the world to achieve liberation? The reason is that all beings are mostly insincere and seldom genuine, completely lacking in correct mindfulness. With precisely this cause, many descend into hellish realms, while few find liberation. Consider someone else who outwardly displays filial piety towards his parents, respect to teachers, and reverence towards monastics, yet inwardly harbors disrespect. Though appearing diligent externally, he embodies dishonesty internally. Such a morally comprised person, though not yet facing immediate retribution, is nevertheless on the brink of the 3 wretched realms. Without correct mindfulness, liberation is unattainable. Ananda further asked the Buddha, in such case, what kind of virtuous roots should one cultivate to attain true liberation? The Buddha said to Ananda, listen carefully now. As I am about to explain to you, there are 10 methods of rebirth that can lead to liberation. What are these 10? 1. Practice body contemplation with correct mindfulness. Always cherish joy and offer food, drink, and clothing to Buddhas and monastics. This will lead to rebirth and not to a Buddhist land. 2. With correct mindfulness, offer sweet, excellent, and effective medicine to a sick bhikkhu, and to all sending means. This will lead to rebirth and not to a Buddhist land. 3. With correct mindfulness, harm no living being and extend compassion to all. This will lead to rebirth and not to a Buddhist land. 4. With correct mindfulness, faithfully observe the precepts received from the master, cultivate monastic conduct with pure wisdom, and always cherish joy. This will lead to rebirth and not to a Buddhist land. 5. With correct mindfulness, demonstrate filial piety towards parents, show reverence to teachers and elders, and refrain from harboring arrogance. This will lead to rebirth and not to a Buddhist land. 6. With correct mindfulness, make pilgrimages to monastic quarters, show veneration for pagodas and temples, and upon hearing Dharma teachings, understand at least one principle. This will lead to rebirth and not to a Buddhist land. 7. With correct mindfulness, receive and observe the 8 precepts for an entire day and night, ensuring not to breach any. This will lead to rebirth and not to a Buddhist land. 8. With correct mindfulness, stay away from the household during fasting days and months, and regularly visit virtuous teachers. This will lead to rebirth and not to a Buddhist land. 9. With correct mindfulness, always maintain pure precepts, diligently practice meditation, safeguard the Dharma, and refrain from harsh speech. This will lead to rebirth and not to a Buddhist land. 10. With correct mindfulness, avoid harboring slanderous thoughts toward the supreme path, diligently uphold pure precepts, and instruct the unwise. Spread the teachings of this sutra and guide and transform countless sentient beings. All such practitioners will attain rebirth and not to a Buddhist land. At that time, in the assembly, there was Bodhisattva named Daochuo wisdom. He addressed the Buddha, One, what is marvelous and joyous wonders in Amitabha's land that make all beings aspire to be born there? The Buddha said, the Bodhisattva Daochuo wisdom, you should now stand up, press your palms together, and stand erect facing west. With correct mindfulness, contemplate Amitabha Buddha's land, wishing to Behold, Amitabha Buddha. At that moment, the assembled multitude also rose and joined their palms, collectively contemplating Amitabha Buddha. In that instant, Amitabha Buddha displayed his immense supernatural power, emitting a brilliant light that illuminated Bodhisattva, mountain, ocean, wisdom. Just then, Bodhisattva, mountain, ocean, wisdom, and others witnessed all the magnificent and wondrous aspects of Amitabha Buddha's land, everything composed of the 7 jewels, with mountains in the very land itself adorned with these jewels. The waters, birds, and forests resonated with the sounds of the Dharma, and ceaselessly in that land the Dharma wheel constantly turns, day after day. The inhabitants do not engage in matters outside the Buddha's teachings, but purely practice within such teachings. They speak in the language of the Mahayana, listen to the sounds that embody the Mahayana, and comprehend principles within the Mahayana. Then Bodhisattva, mountain, ocean, wisdom spoke to the Buddha, "Well, Honored One, today we have beheld the supreme wondrous and unfathomable benefits of that land. I now wish for all sentient beings to be reborn there. And thereafter we too aspire to be reborn in that land." The Buddha declared through correct contemplation and correct mindfulness, practitioners achieve true liberation and will all be reborn in the pure land. If a good man or woman has firm faith in this sutra, cherishes and delights in it, and inspires and guides others, both the speaker and the listeners will be reborn in Amitabha Buddha's land. For such people, from this day forward, I will always ensure that 25 bodhisattvas provide them protection, keeping them free from illness and worries, and safe from human and non-human adversaries, whether they are walking, resting, sitting, or lying down. Regardless of the time, day or night, they will always enjoy peace and security. Buddha, mountain, ocean, wisdom, and trust the Buddha. Well, Honored One, I now wholeheartedly embrace your esteemed teachings and harbor no doubts. Yet there are many beings in the world who slander the sutra and disbelieve it. What will happen to them in the future? The Buddha responded to Bodhisattva, mountain, ocean, wisdom. In the future, in Jama Vipa, there may be bhikkhus and bhikkhunis who, upon witnessing someone read or chant the sutra, will harbor anger and slander in their hearts. Due to their defamation of the correct Dharma, they will, in their current lives, endure very severe illnesses, lose their sense faculties, and suffer from deafness, blindness, muteness, dropsy, and ghostly hauntings. They will be unable to find peace, whether sitting or lying down. Desperately clinging to life, yet barely surviving, they will wish for death, but will not be able to die. Upon their death, they will descend into hell, enduring extreme torments for 80,000 kalpas. For hundreds of millions of lifetimes, they will not even hear the names of water and food. After a long period, once they exit the hell, they will be reincarnated as cattle, horses, pigs, and sheep, only to be slaughtered by humans and endure immense sufferings. Subsequently, when reborn as humans, they will constantly live in the lowest societal positions. For hundreds of millions of lifetimes, they will never experience freedom, nor will they hear the names of the 3 gems. Therefore, it is not advisable to discuss the sutra with those who lack wisdom and faith. May the merit accrues from composing and circulating this collection be universally extended to all beings. May we first awaken the Bodhi mind, jointly sprout with pure light, and finally attain the path of Buddhahood. Afterward, why do Master Daochuo cite dubious sutras in his collection on the Land of Peace enjoyed by Dharma Master Huizhang? The dissemination of Buddhist scriptures in China is a serious and solemn endeavor. The text must be acquired from Indian, translated into Chinese, before they are acknowledged as standard canonical scriptures. As Buddhism's influence expanded dramatically in China, the prevalence of spurious scriptures also increased. These are often referred to as suspected apocryphal sutras. The term suspected denotes doubts about the authenticity of a scripture. They arise when historical records are incomplete, leaving the translator unnamed, or when the text's narrative and origin stir skepticism. Nevertheless, there is no definitive evidence of their falsity, so these texts classified as suspected apocryphal sutras. Apocryphal sutras are texts definitively proven not to have originated from India, but were instead formulated within China. There are 2 types of apocryphal scriptures. The first bears no relation to the principles of Buddhist teaching and is entirely nonsensical. Examples include the Sutra of the Blood Bowl and the Sutra of the Blood Lake. Pretending to be legitimate sutras, these texts misuse the Buddha's name to sow confusion about his teachings. The second includes texts that, although not originating in India according to textual research, have principles that align with Buddha's teachings. The criteria for alignment with Buddhist teachings involve the 3 Dharma seals. Formations are impermanent, dharmas are without self, and nirvana is quiescent. Alternatively, the one dharma seal in Mahayana Buddhism, known as the singular seal of ultimate reality, applies. Every text aligns whether the ultimate reality seal or the three dharma seals taught by the Buddha. It receives the Buddha's endorsement. However, classifying this Buddhist sutra remains debatable, hence it refers to as suspected apocryphal sutra. Why do spurious scriptures emerge? It is because Buddhist teachings are both flourishing and profound. These dubious texts generally arise in two circumstances. One is that they were authored by non-Buddhists who, coveting the brilliance of early Buddhism but lacking that understanding of its principles, fabricate texts filled with confusion and absurdity. Such pretensions of authenticity undermine the integrity of Buddhism. This phenomenon is similar to the counterfeiting of high-quality products. No one would rather forge a product that is not well known. Consequently, during the Sui Tang dynasties, a significant number of such questionable scriptures appeared. The other circumstances of spurious scriptures produced by meddlers who have faith in Buddhism. The content of these dubious texts aligns with Buddhist teachings. Their intentions are beneficent, and they contribute positively to the dissemination of Buddhism. Moreover, among these texts, many focus on the Pure Land, signifying the fecundity of the Pure Land practice. Many individuals were able to compose their own versions to ride out the wave of popularity. The benefits of these apocryphal scriptures lies in their promotion of Buddhism and the enhancement of social behavior. Yet each culture possesses unique characteristics. As Buddhism spread to China, it naturally encountered the entrenched tradition of Chinese culture. Despite recognizing the value of Buddhist teachings, some Chinese harbored resistance to Buddhism's foreign origins. They questioned why their native sages, such as Pangu, who created the world, and Nuwa, who mended the sky, were not mentioned in Buddhist teachings. To address these cultural sensitivities, some pondered the possibility of considering deities like Fuzi and Nuwa as manifestations of Bodhisattvas, thereby aligning them with the teachings of the Buddha for broader acceptance. This acknowledgement of revered Chinese figures within the Buddhist framework helped to ease cultural tensions and deepen the faith in Buddhist teachings. From this perspective, the dubious scriptures function as a bridge. However, they were akin to beating a drum on the side, serving promotional purposes rather than representing authentic sutras. By claiming that Fuzi and Nuwa were Bodhisattvas, precious response voice, and partial auspiciousness in the spurious 4 quarters of Sumera Sutra, a significant moment was generated. Once someone took hold, the public believed it, and it became accepted as fact. Master Daochuo cited the scripture to leverage the influence of its popularity. At that time, the scripture was widely acclaimed, and most people trusted its authenticity. Not referencing it would have paradoxically raised suspicions. Mr. Daochuo was fully aware that it was not an authentic sutra, yet he chose to cite it. This approach is described as making the most of a mistake for the sake of the Western Pure Land. Given its widespread acceptance, Mr. Daochuo employed the sutra as a reference. In ancient times, when scholarship was less developed, the general populace was not well versed in literary research. Only accomplished monastics, learned practitioners, and specialized scholars had a true understanding. Therefore, why question its veracity openly? Since the scripture had a utilitarian value, it was used with the intention of guiding the multitude to the Western Pure Land, where upon arrival all concerns would be resolved anyway. This was deemed sufficient. Consider this analogy. There is a pond next to the Yangtze River, but its water cannot reach the river directly. So we dig a ditch from the pond to the Yangtze and tell the pond water. This ditch is the Yangtze. Believing this, the water flows toward where it proceeds as the river. As long as the water enters the ditch, it will reach the actual Yangtze. Although the ditch isn't truly the Yangtze, we assert that it is to encourage the water's journey. Once the water merged with the Yangtze, it recognizes its true destination and harbors no ill feelings about the early misunderstanding. Similarly, texts like the 4 quarters of Sumera Sutra are not real sutras, yet, just as calling something that is not the Yangtze, labeling a non-sutra a sutra ultimately doesn't matter. As long as it effectively leads the water to the Yangtze, it is acceptable to claim that the ditch is the Yangtze. Therefore, it is crucial to acquire a proper understanding of these dubious scriptures, especially the recent referenced by the lineage masters of the Pure Land school. Master Daochuo's collection not only cites one but several questionable scriptures, including the 4 quarters of Sumera Sutra, the Sutra on Rebirth in the 10 directions according to wishes, the Sutra of Pure Deliverance of Bodhisattvas, the Respectful Sutra on Emperor Good King, and the Sutra of Soul Practice of Samadhi, totaling 5. At that time, Mr. Daochuo was not only one who cited dubious scriptures, Mr. Zi of the Tentai School did it as well. As mentioned, such citations were strategically aligned with the customs habit, and conditions of the era. Importantly, the apocryphal scriptures referenced by the Buddhists were always in accordance with the principles of Buddhist sutras, specifically the three Dharma seals or the one Dharma seal. The masters selectively cited texts that conformed to these principles, otherwise they refrained from quoting them. Referencing dubious scriptures is no longer necessary today, with the advancement of scholarship and the establishment of the Pure Land School. Our pond water has already made its way through the small ditch to the Yangtze River, eliminating the need to describe the ditch as the Yangtze. This explanation might still be relevant for those who have not yet reached the Yangtze. Yet for those who have, it is redundant. Nonetheless, to preserve the integrity of the original text, there is no need to remove this section from the collection. It doesn't matter, and serves as a historical record as well. There are various reasons for concocting the apocryphal scriptures. Some individuals create them for personal gain and to enhance their reputation and secure private benefits, which is certainly objectionable. However, others may act with benevolent intentions, striving to influence public conduct and facilitate the path of the Western Pure Land. Mr. Daochuo was certainly aware of such dynamics. His reference to these scriptures were our strategic expectation of public opinion at the time. From talks on the collection, land of peace and joy. Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitofo.